An entitled boomer almost drowns because he ignored no swimming signs and would rather die in the water than be rescued by a woman. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm an ocean rescue lifeguard on a popular Florida beach. Yesterday, we had really strong currents and a riptide, so we had to put up a red flag and a no swimming signs all along the shoreline. Most people listened, but one man, a boomer in a Speedo that left little to the imagination, did not. He went straight into the water. I immediately got into the water on my jet ski as I didn't want to accidentally be pulled out and asked him to get out, but he refused, and he only continued to swim deeper. He was then pulled underwater by a large wave like I had just warned would happen, and he couldn't get himself back up. So I immediately got into rescue mode, trying to get him to grab onto my rescue tube. Well, the man didn't grab on, still being pummeled by waves. My partner, who I share a stand with, took to his jet ski and headed over. Together, we were able to pull him above the water without drowning, and he grabbed onto the rescue float, luckily still conscious. We pulled him in and helped him onto my jet ski, and it was then that he began berating us that he was totally fine and didn't need help. Both of us were holding back anger as we tried to get him to hang on to me so we could drive him back to the shore. Once we got back, a crowd gathered to see what had happened, and he continued yelling at us, saying that a real man doesn't need any help, especially not from a female, and that we made a fool of him in front of the entire beach. And it's crazy how ungrateful someone like this can be. I saved his life, and he had to go on some stupid sexist rant about me. On top of that, we also had a stinging marine life warning yesterday, meaning that we had to put up a purple flag. There were man-of-wars and jellyfish in the water, which added to our decision to close the beach for swimming. So the boomer was very lucky that he didn't get stung by anything. Now, in case someone's wondering, no, there are no fines for people who ignored no swimming signs in the state of Florida. Florida's lifeguarding system is so screwed up that a few years back, a lifeguard from a town north of here got fired for rescuing someone that was drowning outside of his unmarked observation perimeter. Apparently, that area uses private lifeguard companies. Luckily for me, I work for the city and I can't be fired for stupidity like that. Also, my jet ski has water damage. I discovered this while doing an inspection this morning. It's likely that riding out in that rip current caused some damage and filled the inside with water. Again, there's no fines to pay for this and it's gonna be on the city's dime, but it all really sucks because all of this is to be blamed on this boomer. Man, it is crazy to me that you would not only ignore a lifeguard, but also be stubborn from having your life saved all because a woman is rescuing you. Like, that's the definition of stupid. You would rather try to look cool and be a man in front of everybody than, I don't know, have your life saved. But either way, good for you for staying professional because truly, I don't think I could do that if my life depended on it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A spoiled rotten child makes my life at a daycare absolutely miserable, as his poor behavior is directly connected to his parents who refuse to tell him no, which truly made my life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so recently I quit my job at a daycare which I will call Happy Daycare. I had been there for almost 2 years, but due to a lot of other people quitting and being forced to participate in mandatory meetings along with other things, I decided to quit. This child, while not at the daycare anymore, added undue stress not just to me, but to everyone. I'm gonna call this kid Terror, and I know that's mean, but trust me when I say that it completely suits him. So when everyone graduated to their new classes, Terror didn't graduate right away because he was still potty training despite being 3 years old. Now, both of his parents worked, but it seemed like they didn't even try to potty train on the weekends. They just asked why it hadn't been done yet. Well, we can't start potty training unless the kids are also doing it at home. If they're not potty training at home, then the lessons won't be effective. So it took him about 2 months to move upstairs. However, it seemed like the lesson didn't stick. One of my former coworkers, who I will call Lily, was upstairs in the classroom, which is the very one that Terror was in. Upstairs, they have iPads, and the rule is that you can only be on the iPad for 15 minutes. Well, one day, Lily starts smelling poop. She thinks that maybe someone had passed gas, but then she realized that Terror has pooped on the tablets. Instead of getting up and going to the bathroom, Terror decides to poop his pants and sit on his own feces, which is absolutely disgusting. So, to avoid a repeat of that, Lily told me the story and said Terror could not be on the iPad for the rest of the day. So then he tattles to his mom, who then tattles to our boss, who was not helpful in this situation. The mom also got angry that we gave her Terror's poopy clothing. We legally cannot throw away children's clothing unless the parents say it's okay, and trust me, some parents get pissed if you throw away any clothing, even if it's ruined. One time, I had to help change Terror into new clothing because he had another accident in his underwear. He was in the bathroom that's in the classroom, and I went to grab his clothing, but when I came back, I find out that he's peed on the floor right next to the toilet. Well, his parents didn't see what the big deal was, and they were just once again angry that we sent him home with dirty clothing. I I once again had to explain that we cannot throw away dirty clothing without proper consent or we get in trouble. Now, I was not a head teacher, I was just a support teacher, meaning that I would go into any classroom I was told to go in and help out the teachers with whatever they needed. I usually started my day by doing bathroom breaks, seeing if any teacher in any classrooms needed it. So while I wasn't always with Terror, I knew how bad he could be. Everyone knew how bad he could be. If he didn't get his way, he would hit people, he would kick people, and throw a tantrum. He would spit or even try to bite us. He once kicked another child in the head for no reason, and we had to call her mother just in case the child had a concussion. Needless to say, that mother wasn't happy. Now, Terror's parents were no help. They either didn't believe us or they thought we were lying about their kid. And I think the mom was the worst. When a kid got hurt or if a kid did something to a classmate, we had to write them up. Terror would sometimes have multiple reports in one day. I think one time he had 3. I'd also find him sitting up front with the main ladies in charge and not in class. Again, the mom just doesn't seem to think that it's a big deal. And she also sometimes thought the teachers were making things worse. I literally heard her say once, "I think they're making it worse for him." But guys, truly, they tried everything with this kid. We had not only 1 but 2 therapists come into Happy Daycare to help this kid, and he only got worse. He got so bad that my bosses would try to get one of the support teachers to be one-on-one with him. When she asked me, I straight away said absolutely not. And later, Lily told me my boss tried the same on her. The teachers in Terror's room were also at their wits' end because they couldn't just focus on one kid. They had around 12 other children to look after. Terror also didn't just attack kids, he attacked the teachers too. He hit teachers multiple times and once tried to pinch me when I told him no. He also lost a lot of privileges due to repeated bad behavior. For example, he was no longer allowed to be the line leader because he got into the hallway and took off by himself. And if you've worked in a daycare, that's a big no-no and a safety hazard. But again, the mother thinks her child is a precious angel. She even complained that the other kids weren't playing with Terror and was upset that the teachers weren't doing anything about it. Now, kids are not stupid, and a lot of Terror's classmates were just tired of dealing with him. I'm also not a big fan on forcing kids to play together, and instead, try to get kids to understand that just because a friend doesn't want to play now doesn't mean that they won't play with you later. I'm also not going to force any kids to play with the class bully who's hurt them before. But no matter what we did, the parents were no help, and they seemed to think that the people at Happy Daycare were the bad guys. However, there is some happy news. Terror left the daycare. His parents found him a new daycare, but he didn't even finish his final week at Happy Daycare. Nope, he had another fit and someone had to be one-on-one with him. My old coworker overheard them calling his mom saying, "You need to come get him now." Despite everything, I feel bad for Terror because his parents just won't parent him. They would excuse everything that he did and get mad at us for doing our jobs. I knew he was going to either leave Happy Daycare or be kicked out because nothing was working. So either way, so long Terror, because I wish you the absolute best of luck. Okay, I've got to be completely honest, this made me incredibly frustrated reading through this. Like, I seriously could never put up with that if I was in the original poster shoes. I think I would lose my mind dealing with this, and not just for the reason of like dealing with this bratty child, but also putting up with those parents. Like, those parents absolutely suck. And I think you know the type of situation I'm talking about here where it's like, oh yeah, this kid's never been told no, and now you have to deal with it. Like, that's obnoxious. I could never put up with that. So good for the original poster and their coworkers, because you are much stronger than I am, because this sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. My best friend is marrying a stranger that she's known for literally 3 weeks, and now I am incredibly worried and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my best friend have been best friends for nearly 29 years. We're both 37 years old and we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. We were neighbors during childhood, so we've gone through everything together. Childhood, high school, parties, mistakes, college, young marriages, surprise pregnancies, and lots of life. We also went through divorces together. For context, her divorce was due to infidelity on her ex-husband's part, with mine being due to my ex-husband's alcoholism. And it was just a coincidence that it was within a year of each other. This led to a lot of crying together and a lot of healing together, and we re-entered the dating world around the same time. The next couple of years were full of a lot of tough lessons about relationships and partnerships and dating and love. This was stuff we spoke about constantly and had learned a lot of great important lessons. She met a boy and dated him for a year, and he wasn't the one and nobody loved him, but we let her work through it. Definitely had some serious conversations, but trusted her to make the right choice for herself. She does finally break up with him and is in a very peaceful place. And within a week, she goes on a first date with a new guy, which is a setup through mutual friends. She felt like it was too soon, but also wanted to just get back out there. Well, they've been dating for maybe 5 weeks and they're now engaged to be married in the summer. In total, they will have been together approximately 3 months before they're fully married. I've only met him once. He does seem by all accounts to be a good man, but this just feels insanely fast and insanely irresponsible. couple. They both have 2 children, each from their prior marriages, ranging in ages from 9 to 14. I genuinely don't understand what the rush is. The only context I can provide is that they both leaned heavily into their Christian faith post-divorce, and I think that maybe accelerated the timeline for different reasons. If you ask them why they're moving by so fast, they will just say that they're in love. So how do I strike a balance between honesty and tough love and support from my best friend? Like seriously, what do I say? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, this is crazy. Like you're completely right first off, because this is way too fast. And don't get me wrong, sometimes this is like a match made in heaven and like it just kind of works out in some kind of way, but I just don't know if that's going to be the case for this one. It seems like your friend is just really lonely and things went wrong really fast, so she's trying to like latch on to the first person that loves her, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't think that's a good idea. So unfortunately, at the end of the day, it really does come down to her own decisions, and I think you just be as supportive as possible. I know that's what I would do if I was in your shoes, because this really does sound tricky, and I seriously don't blame you for being concerned. Am I the jerk for cutting off the Wi-Fi every night at 11 o'clock while my cousin stays with us, all because she is literally keeping me up all night, disturbing my sleep and ruining my grades at university? Because right now my parents are saying that I'm in the wrong, and honestly I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male engineering student living with my parents in Lebanon. Finals are in a week, so my nights are mostly spent memorizing formulas and solving circuits. Last month, my 17-year-old cousin, who we will call Laura, asked if she could crash in our guest bedroom for a few weeks while she did a short internship in a close-by city that's just down from our village. My parents said yes, which is no problem because I like Laura, but the problem started on her second night. Around midnight, I heard loud laughter and TV noises coming from the living room. Laura was playing with her friends online until 1 o'clock in the morning, and this happened almost 3 nights in a row, even though I complained to her multiple times as respectfully as I could. After 3 nights of this, I was exhausted. I harshly confronted her and she apologized, but guess what? The next night it happened again, albeit only until midnight, but it was a bit lower. My grades are hanging on by a thread, so I took a bigger approach and I shut down the Wi-Fi at 11 o'clock every night, and I turned it back on when I woke up the next morning at around 7. My parents don't mind since they're more TV people and they go to sleep early as it is, but this is where all the chaos really began. Laura lost connection mid-game the first night I did this, and she came to me furious. She said I was acting like an old landlord ruining her only free time. My parents think I overreacted, and they say Laura's just enjoying her time with us and the stay is temporary. They want me to turn the internet back on and ignore her instead for the sake of family. The main router is in my room, so most control is mine, but I had to listen to my parents in the end. So seriously, am I the jerk for doing this? I feel bad because Laura's internship is only about 2 more weeks, and yes, I didn't warn her about turning off the Wi-Fi. On the other hand, I'm trying for a scholarship, and I literally can't focus or go to sleep with a late night noise. Now fast forward and it's 9 o'clock p.m. right now, and I'm getting ready to go to bed in a couple of hours, and she's already in our living room playing PlayStation on the TV. I still don't know if I should cut it off again tonight, because at this point, it's like a battle of wits. On one hand, my parents pay for the Wi-Fi, and she is a guest, so I guess we should be accommodating her, but I really tried, and I mentioned that this was a problem so much. What should I do? Okay, this is so disrespectful on so many levels. Like seriously, Laura sucks. Like think about it for a second. She's a guest in your house and she's staying up until midnight disturbing you and pretty much everybody else in the house. Like I don't know about you, but that's not the way a guest should be acting in anybody's house that isn't their own. I know if I was staying with family members, I would be on my best behavior. I wouldn't be sitting there being like, oh yeah, you're disturbing my only free time. By the way, I'm gonna keep everybody up until 1 in the morning. See ya. It's like, dude, you've got stuff to do. You can't just be staying up all night because of her. So you know what? You're not the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong, because I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done something similar. My boyfriend's mom refuses to get a job and relies on my boyfriend for literally everything. And right now I feel like I'm at my wit's end, as I seriously just cannot handle this any longer. Here's what's going on. I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years, and during that entire 2 years, his mom hasn't been working. She sits in her room all day and does nothing. Literally, she's home 24/7. My boyfriend also has 3 other siblings. 2 of them are adults and 1 of them is only 14. The mom got cheated on by the dad when I first started seeing my boyfriend, and ever since then, she just waits around secretly, hoping for the dad to come back into her life. She goes to therapy and takes antidepressants, and I understand that mental health is a struggle, but I really can't help but be so frustrated over the situation. My boyfriend and his older sister take care of all of the bills. She doesn't even help clean or cook. They do everything around the house. My boyfriend and I eventually want to have our own place, but she refuses to get a job and help out with the finances. Every time my boyfriend tries to bring it up to her about how he's financially struggling at this point and exhausted of having to play parent to his own mother, she just cries and guilt trips him. It seriously pisses me off because recently they had to give up her brand new car because my boyfriend boyfriend was struggling to take care of everything. But the mom says, no, I want the car. Can you just please pay for it? And it's like, can you get a freaking job and pay for it yourself? She expects him to play father around the house since their actual father left. And it's really upsetting having to watch my boyfriend struggle and become depressed, all due to this garbage while she just selfishly watches. What should I do? Man, if there's ever been a case of someone like having some kind of justification for moving out on their own, this would absolutely be it. Because you see it for exactly what it is, and obviously your boyfriend sees it too, but this is his mother we're talking about. She's someone that he obviously can't just walk out on, so it's very tricky. Like, this really sucks overall, especially when you consider the fact that she is quite literally using him. And that really sucks, considering the fact that you guys are struggling and just trying to live on your own. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover a coworker who literally is a messy person and never does his job? Because right now I'm being guilt-tripped hard by my boss, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work as a line cook in a very busy, high-volume kitchen. The team is small, and when one person slacks, it affects the whole line. There's this one guy who we will call Jake, who has 2 more years of seniority over me. Technically, he's been here longer, but I've got more outside cooking experience than he does. I've worked in various kitchens, everything from fast casual to fine dining, so I know my way around a kitchen and I have a solid work ethic. Jake, on the other hand, tends to coast. He's a slow cook, makes basic mistakes, and leaves his station a mess. Dirty pans in the sink, ingredients uncovered, and prep half done. We've tried giving him feedback, but he either ignores it or just brushes it off. On top of that, Jake has this habit of leaving early almost every single shift. He claims he's done his part, but it's usually because he says he has a headache. Now, I'm not saying that he fakes it, but it's becoming a regular excuse. Sometimes he leaves 30 minutes early, sometimes an hour, and it always leaves the rest of us scrambling to pick up his work. His station is always left in disarray, and there's always stuff left unfinished. At first, I would pick up the slack to keep the kitchen running smoothly, but after a while, I stopped. I told my chef and shift lead that I'm not covering for Jake anymore. If he leaves early because of a headache, that is his problem and not mine. Last Friday, we got slammed. Jake finished a round of tickets, looked at the clock, and said he had a headache, and then he dipped out, as he literally left early like he usually does. His station was left in a mess with dirty pans and prep undone, as well as nothing stocked for the next shift. But I just stayed on my station and I didn't touch his stuff. After service, the chef pulled me aside and said that I should have just done what needed to be done for the team. But I told him straight up, I'm not going to keep cleaning up after Jake, especially when he leaves early all the time, and when I have more experience than him. His seniority doesn't change the fact that he's creating more work for the rest of us. Now, a few of the crew are saying I should have just sucked it up and kept the team running, while others agree with me that Jake needs to take responsibility for his own mess. Now, it's important to note that he does have FMLA for this, but he uses it way too often. So seriously, am I the jerk for not covering for someone who leaves early all because of a headache, who then makes a mess and doesn't pull his weight? Because at this point, I'm exhausted and I'm tired of dealing with it. Okay, I really love the fact that you're not doing it because, my God, you should have no reason to do it. Like, seriously, this guy's a complete moron. If he has a headache and he's not feeling well and he's got FMLA for that, then sure, go ahead and go home. But the least you could do is clean up your stupid station, bro. Like, what are you doing? You're just leaving that mess for everybody. Like, that is so inconsiderate. And the fact that the chef is pulling you aside and trying to be like, you should have been a team player, completely shows that he doesn't actually care about the stuff being dirty or that Jake's leaving it behind, but instead is trying to like boss you around in some kind of way. But it's like, dude, you're not the one that messed up the place. Instead, the chef should be going to Jake and being like, hey man, like clean up your crap. Be a team player for once. Like, come on, you're gonna leave early, sure, but like clean up at least. I don't know, this just seems really backwards to me. Like, what is the chef doing? How could anybody be on Jake's side in this situation? So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because I know for a fact if that was me, I would be incredibly pissed off. Am I the jerk for declining a late invitation to a wedding after I literally was only thought of after other people couldn't show up? Because right now I'm worried that I might have ruined some relationships at my job, and I'm now honestly not sure what to do moving forward. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my coworker, who is also my boss's son, is getting married in July. Months ago, at around October or November, several of my other coworkers already got hand-delivered invitations to the wedding. During this initial period, I was admittedly a little hurt not to be included, though I tried to remain professional and keep it to myself. It really stung, especially hearing those included chatter about wedding talk openly around the office in front of me, knowing that I wasn't included. Well, today I got an invitation. I was extremely surprised and a little confused since I thought I wasn't invited. I did initially stutter a little and I asked something like, oh, well, why now? Because I was completely caught off guard. And he, also kind of clumsily, explained that they invited close friends and family first, and they had to see who couldn't come before they invited others. It was an awkward interaction. I didn't even know sending out invites in stages was a thing that people did. I mean, I thought they all went out at the exact same time. In a moment of deliberation, I, in a way I felt was gracious, kindly and softly declined the invitation. I thanked him for thinking of me and told him I appreciated the invite, but regretted that I would not be able to make it. I then handed back the invitation because I truly was not sure what to do with it, and that was that. Now, my internal thought process was that I've always been taught not to accept a late invitation, because why attend a party or gathering you were only invited to as an afterthought? Also, he specifically told me I got an invitation because someone else couldn't make it. I also felt a little humiliated in the moment because not only was I a second string invite, but my coworkers who were invited months ago would know that I'm a second string. As a result of this, everyone is now acting a little cold towards me, including my boss, and I'm wondering if I'm the jerk here. I think I might be the jerk because I handed the invitation back and that felt really awkward, and because it might seem like my decline was coming from a place of resentment and bitterness about not being included in the first wave. I can see how it might be interpreted that way, though I think it was coming from a place of trying to protect my own self-worth. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly at a loss. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all because this really is the way I would react as well. I'm a big believer of the idea that if I'm not invited, then I'm not going to show up, especially if I'm invited late to something. Like, are you kidding me right now? And this situation is no different. So no, I'm going to make a firm stance and say you're not the jerk here. Maybe the whole like handing back the invitation part was just a little bit too awkward for them and that's why they're being cold to you, but I think the message is still the same. If they wanted you to be there, then they should have invited you in the first place. An entitled jerk steals the bricks that were sitting in front of my house, claiming that he had every right to them as they were sitting on city property. And I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's ignorance and entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so some things are just hard to fathom. Our house is on a downslope and the front patio sits below the street. Even though we live in a metro area, our streets do not have sidewalks, just the street and a dirt area between the road and our fence. This area between actually belongs to the city, but as is usual, the property owners are required to maintain it. Last summer, I had just decided to give it a small makeover and had pulled up the bricks that had been framing the plant area and stacked them against the fence, all while I decided exactly what I wanted to do with them. Well, one evening during this time, my family and I were sitting around our fire table out on the front patio, enjoying a nice evening. My sons and their significant others had driven over to visit us, and one had parked on the side of the road in front of our fence. We were all sitting around chatting and having a nice time, and I was facing the upslope and happened to notice the shape of someone walking by, but between the car and our fence. Now, that's not a big deal. I had just dug up the plants that had been there, but it was a little weird because this is a little tight and there was more room on the street side. I didn't think too much about it until I saw someone do it again. Now, it's not a busy street, so there really was no need to go that way. I thought something was off because they had to deliberately make the choice to take a narrow path instead of taking the easier one. So I decided to see exactly what was going on. I walked up the stairs and looked at the area between the car and the fence, and I was stunned to see almost all the bricks were gone. I looked down the street, and there is the young 20-something-year-old boy riding away on a bicycle with some of the bricks in his basket. And I think to myself in that moment, what is happening right now? I yelled after him, and he stopped and looked back. I walked over to him, and I asked him what's going on. I say to him, hey, what are you doing with my bricks? This guy says, they were just sitting there, so I thought I would take them. Now, keep in mind, he had to park his bike and walk between the car and the fence just to reach them, and 6 people were sitting 20 feet away with 3 of them facing him. I say to him, those bricks belong to me. Why would you think you could just take them? That's stealing. The entitled jerk said to me, I'm not stealing. They were on land owned by the city, and so they must be free to anybody. I said to him, no, that's not how it works. It may be the city land, but I'm required to maintain it. And even if they were the city's, you would still be stealing the bricks from them. The guy looked at me and said, well, I was told differently, so I just decided I could have them. I looked at him and I said, stop trying to justify stealing. I need you to take those bricks on the bike back to where you got them, and then go get the other ones that you stole right now. This conversation was repeated many times as he kept defending his actions, and it took over 10 minutes to convince him that he had to return the bricks. He seemed so confused, looking at me with big sad eyes, like they were just sitting there in front of my house, so of course they're not mine, and that somehow gives him the right to take it. He looked as if he was hurt, as if he was asking why I was accusing him of stealing. feeling. For a minute, I felt like I kicked a puppy, but then I snapped out of it and I explained again to him exactly how the land use works, how it's wrong to take anything that doesn't belong to him, and once again, demanded that he return all of my bricks. I watched him take off his bike, then ride down the block and gather the rest. He brought them in one load at a time and restacked them in front of the fence. Now, I was steaming. I've never in all my life come across a person so ignorant in how the world works, and I gathered from what his roommates told him that there are more of them out there that think this way. And by the way, it turns out they are college students renting a house, and I honestly feel very sorry for their landlords and their teachers. Yeah, that's a really dumb excuse by that college kid, because he literally stole someone's property and just said, "What do you mean? It was on city property. That means I can have it for free, right?" Like, what in the world was he thinking? That is such an awful precedent to set. Now, someone might be like, "Oh, come on, they're just bricks. Is it that big of a deal?" But like, in my opinion, yes, it absolutely is. That's someone's personal property. It doesn't matter if it's bricks. You can't just take something that isn't yours. So good for you for catching this thief in the act, as well as putting him in his place, because I'm pretty sure if you turned a blind eye to it, I'm sure that this guy would have stolen more of your property. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen freaks out in my shop, claiming that her lip gloss was expired that she bought at my store, and that she was now demanding a full refund, as well as some new free lip gloss of her choice. But instead of giving in to her weird demands, I decided to stand up for myself and my shop by not only denying her service, but also choosing to ban her altogether. And I've honestly never felt better about my decision in my life. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so for a bit of background, I started up my own company at the age of 17 with the help of my mom. I've been thriving for 4 years and have upgraded to a better shop. I do get some unhappy shoppers, but we always sort it out in the end. Now, fast forward when I was 21 years old, and this Karen, probably in her mid-30s, got into a fight because her lip gloss was expired. Now, I still don't get it, and this happened a year ago. I had seen this Karen multiple times in my shop, and she'd always put up some kind of fight to get discounts. Whether she would claim to know the owner, even though I am the owner, or she would be like, "These are overpriced, I shouldn't have to pay that." In the end, though, she would always end up paying the right amount, and we'd move on with our days. But this certain day, she was very unhappy. She came in with one of the newest lip glosses that I had made and put out, and it was on sale for a discount of 20% and only 20%. I had put it out a week before she came in screaming her head off at me, disrupting the other happy customers that were shopping in peace. The lip gloss was Christmas themed and had little sparkles in it and a red accent to it, just to enhance the lip color when someone applied it. She came up to the front desk where I was ringing someone up and started screaming at me to get a refund because her lip gloss was expired. She started shouting, "My lip gloss is expired. I expect a full refund and a new free lip gloss of my choice." Now, knowing that sometimes this Karen can go bonkers, I calmly asked her what the problem was, and she answered by saying, "My lip gloss is chunky. It's obviously expired." Now, I told her that lip gloss can last up to about 5 months to a little over a year, and that it was most likely the little sparkle flecks that had been added to it. And you know what she says to me in return? She said, and I quote, "Well, I've had this lip gloss for 9 months, so I guess it expired." I responded to her and I said, "Ma'am, that lip gloss has been out for a little over a year." And I tried to say this calmly, knowing that I'd tell my mother all of this at the end of the day. I mean, it's crazy what people will do just to get a free product. She looked at me, obviously not knowing what to say, because how do you come back from getting called out? So she turns around, walked out, and dragged her toddler with her. She obviously left with a racket, calling me names and calling my shop names, and then just stomping away. So I called after her. I said to her, "You're banned. Never come back here ever again." Now, she obviously heard me because she stopped a little over a second, and thankfully, my shop has been Karen-free ever since. Yeah, what in the world is wrong with people? Like, this Karen literally came in there just to try and lie and get free products. That is all that happened here, and that is so annoying. And I bet you it wasn't even like expired in any kind of way. I bet it's one of those situations where she was running out, so she thought to herself, okay, I could probably get a free one if I complain a little bit. And I don't know about you who's listening, but personally, I can't stand people who act this way. Like, this really is such a cheap item altogether, and I really can't understand why anybody would freak out over something literally so small. It really makes me believe that some people actually do this on purpose just to try and like catch a deal or something like that. Like, they go into these stores and they make this big fuss. Also, they can try and like pressure the person behind the counter so that they'll give in and they'll get free stuff. I haven't seen this in action like too many times in my life, but the times that I have seen it, it is horrendous. The person on the other end of the counter looks absolutely stressed out of their mind, and it's just not a fun time for anybody who has to watch it or any managers that have to come up and try to resolve it. But thankfully, the owner of the shop was there and they could actually ban the Karen on the spot. And I'd like to imagine that that was really satisfying to do, especially after all the problems that this Karen caused in their shop. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my parents out for the last few months of me living at home? Because right now they are furious that I'm refusing to step up. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my parents have 3 kids. There's me, a 17-year-old male, my sister who's 15, and my other sister who's 12. My 12-year-old sister has been really sick ever since she was born. She has a really bad immune system, ongoing health problems. That means getting common illnesses are bad for her and sends her to the hospital, and my parents have been fighting hard to keep her healthy and safe and out of the hospital. This has meant that my sister has been the kid my parents focus on more, and this also means that she gets all their patience and understanding. For the sake of the story, we'll call my 15-year-old sister Lily and my 12-year-old sister who gets sick a lot as Sarah. Lily and Sarah are not their real names. Now, my parents take a lot out on Lily and me, meaning that we cannot need or take their attention because then they're the worst. For example, Lily fell when she was 8 years old and she was bleeding a lot. She ran crying to mom because she was upset and sore, and my mom got so mad at her and asked her if she couldn't see that she was dealing with Sarah. Mom scolded her super hard and claimed she wasn't a baby and had no reason to cry over it or run to her about it. Another instance is when Lily was forgotten at school when she was 7 years old and she was crying in the car on the way home. My dad scolded her for acting up, and he told her that she was big enough to understand accidents can happen, and she cried to me when she got home. Lily was also at one point having some trouble at school, and the principal called our parents and requested a meeting. They were really temperamental with her, and for days they would ask her some hard questions. They would say, "Don't you see us struggling enough? Why can't you deal with it yourself?" Mind you, Lily was 10 years old. Now, I struggle with math. I always have and I always will. A few years ago, I was sick for 2 weeks, and then my parents kept me home for another 2 so that I wouldn't bring anything else home to Sarah. Now, I needed a lot of help to catch up with my math, and my teacher needed my parents' signature just to keep me for extended help after school. My parents said they would sign it, but forgot and got mad when I reminded them. Then my teacher called and asked for them to have it in the next day. Well, my parents told me that I was so selfish with their time, and they were so bad-tempered with me. I also, at one point, broke my arm when I was younger, and my parents were called to the hospital. My mom showed up and yelled at me that I should be ashamed of myself for taking her attention away from Sarah, who needed her. There are some specific examples as well. We have to take a lot of steps just to keep Sarah away from sicknesses that we might pick up. We do our best to not make her sick, and I never minded because I totally got it. But I do hate how my parents treated me and Lily. Now, my parents are struggling. My dad lost his job and makes less, and both my parents are very stressed out. They asked me to take some of the weight off their shoulders and try to help them. They wanted me to give them time off and give some money from my part-time job into the household. But I refused. I'll be moving out as soon as I turn 18 because that is exactly what I've been saving for. And my parents don't deserve my help when they resent me for ever needing it as their kid. They have not been good parents to me in years, but they were before. Well, my parents got so mad and told me that I'm so unfair to them. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to help them out? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I'm really glad to see that you're placing the blame on your parents and not your sick sister. It seems like you can see the distinction because it doesn't seem like Sarah would want you or Lily to get treated this way at all. And by the way, the fact that your parents would be so antagonistic towards you and your other sister simply because you have some kind of needs that need to be fulfilled, that in my opinion is so toxic. It doesn't mean that you don't have a sister that gets really sick all the time, but it does mean that they should have been better parents growing up. So to that end, I don't blame you for moving out. I would get out of that house as well if I was in your shoes, because based on the way they're acting, this behavior, in my opinion, will probably just continue, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for yelling at my brother's girlfriend, all because I feel like she's trying to get rid of me? Because right now, they've been conspiring to ship me off back to my mother in Korea, who has blatantly expressed in action that she does not care about me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I think my brother's girlfriend, who we will call Jane, is trying to get rid of me. Jane is not her real name. I live with my brother because after my parents divorced, none of them wanted me, so my brother took me in. We lived lived together alone until about a year ago when he got a girlfriend. She doesn't live with us, but she is at our apartment a lot. I don't really like her, but I already know he kind of has some resentment towards me because he had to take care of me even when my parents were still together and he couldn't have a life because he was always busy with me. I think they want to get married and I'm scared about where I will go. For reference, I'm a 15-year-old female. My mom doesn't live in the country. She went back to Korea after the divorce, and my dad is busy with his new family. Anyways, after school, I wanted to use my brother's phone to watch something. I saw a notification come up at the top and it was from my mom. I was really curious because I don't talk to my mom like ever, and I didn't think that he did either. Long story short, he wants to send me to live with my mom in Korea because Jane wants to move in and start a family. She said that when they start their family, they don't want to be looking after a teenager as well. Now, I didn't tell him anything, and I just put the phone back. I went to sleep really scared, and now, today, I went to my cousin's house, and I told him what my brother was planning to do, and he told his mom. Now, for some background and a reference, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm always nice to her, and I just don't know why she doesn't like me. I really don't want to move. I mean, I have friends here and everything. I thought he loved me and wouldn't want to make me go back to her. My cousin's mom ended up asking him why he was going to send me to live with my mom, and he asked her how she knew that. She said that I told my cousin and he told her. Well, my brother took me back home because he didn't want to cause a scene at my aunt's house. When he got back, he asked me how I knew, and I told him I saw his text message with our mom about how he was sending me away. I was really mad and I just started yelling at him. He just tried to hug me and sat down on the couch with his head down, not talking. Then, like 10 minutes later, Jane comes in. When she came into the living room, she asked what happened, and my brother said that she knows. Then, Jane tried to talk to me, and I stood up and started yelling that I don't know why she has a problem with me, but I'm his sister, so I'm not leaving. I also called her some names because I was really angry. Then, to my surprise, my brother pushed my shoulder and told me to go to my room. I asked why, and he yelled at me to go to my room again. At this point, Jane was crying. I went to my room and I cried as well. I still think he's going to send me away, and I don't know why she doesn't like me because I didn't do anything to her. So am I the jerk for yelling at my brother's girlfriend? I told my friends about this and they said I shouldn't have yelled because she probably has her reasons to want me to be with my mother. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your friends have no idea what they're talking about, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would not care about Jane's reasons for me wanting to go back to my mom in the slightest. Your mom and dad gave up on you. They are not good parents and they're just gonna treat you the same way if you move back in with either of them. Like, they made it very clear that they don't want to take care of you, so your brother had to step up because they're awful parents. And now he wants to send you back to those people who literally don't care about you. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would be furious as well, because it really does seem like Jane is trying to work against you, and she's trying to get rid of you despite the fact that you're doing everything right. You're not mean to her, you're not rude, and it sounds like you're not causing problems like around the house or at home or anything like that. So for them to conspire against you is so uncalled for. I can't imagine being 15 years old and feeling like everybody's trying to abandon me off to somebody else. And sure, your brother was forced to take you in and basically become a parent, and that's not okay, but for them to try and ship you off back to parents who don't care about you, in my opinion, is so unbelievably toxic. Now, when it comes to you moving back with your mom, honestly, I don't think there's anything you can really do about that. Like, if your brother wants to ship you off back to Korea with your mom who clearly is awful, then unfortunately that's kind of what's gonna happen. But in my opinion, regardless of the fact that they want to have their own space as a couple, I think that it's awful that they would ship you off back to someone who doesn't care about you. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel completely betrayed by someone I thought I could trust. Am I the jerk for wanting to attend my mom's funeral instead of going to my wife's family dinner that just so happens to be on the same day? Because right now, my wife is pressuring me to go to the dinner instead of my mom's funeral. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 35-year-old male, and I'm currently in a really tough spot, and I need some unbiased perspectives on whether I'm in the wrong here. My mother passed away after being ill, and her funeral is scheduled for the same day as a big dinner hosted by my wife's family. Now, I understand the importance of family gatherings, especially to my wife and her family. However, my mom's funeral is something I simply cannot miss. She was my rock and my best friend. Her sudden passing has left me devastated, and I feel like I owe it to her to be there to bid her a proper farewell. Now, the dilemma arose when my wife learned about the funeral arrangements conflicting with her family dinner. She immediately insisted that I skip the funeral and attend the dinner instead. Now, what was her reasoning, you might be asking? She argues that her family has always been there for us, and it's crucial that we show our support by attending their events. Now, fair enough, but it's not like I'm ditching the dinner for something trivial. Now, here's the part where it really gets messy. My wife and her sister, who's particularly vocal about this, have been calling me a mama's boy and accusing me of putting my family before hers. They've been pressuring me to prioritize the family dinner over my mom's funeral, saying things like, "Your mom would want you to support us, and you just need to grow up and put us first." Now, the thing is that my mom adored my wife. They got along really well, and my mom always considered her as her own daughter, and my mom put her in the will. So it's not like attending the funeral would be disrespectful to my wife or her family. It's just a matter of honoring my mom's memory and saying my final goodbyes. So would I be the jerk for wanting to attend my mom's funeral? Because right now I'm seriously at such a crossroads and I really don't know what to do. Wow, this story really upset me. Like seriously, this is insane. First of all, of course you're not the jerk for going to your mother's funeral. Any sane individual would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. Of course, please go to your funeral. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know," or anything like that. Any normal person would say something along those lines to be like, "I'm here for you, I love you, and I'm gonna support you." So when I read this story and I see the wife is like, "Oh my gosh, you need to put us first. You need to stop being such a mama's boy." Like I actually felt my blood boil when I read that because I can't imagine being with someone who's gonna act like that. You attending your mom's funeral is not you being a mama's boy. This is you trying to honor and mourn the loss of your mother. And it sounds like the original poster was very close with his mom, which is not a bad thing, by the way. Like the fact that your wife and her family are acting like this is such an inconvenience for them is seriously insane to me. Like what planet are we on right now? Your husband just lost his mom. How can you seriously be obsessed with this family dinner instead of standing by your husband and being there for him in his time of need? Like this stupid dinner can wait. Like I can't believe she's taking that side. Like your wife's opinion, and it is just an opinion by the way, is completely appalling. And I just can't believe that she's trying to put this kind of pressure on you, especially considering the loss that you just went through. So no, of course you are not the jerk. Your wife and her family are completely out of their mind if they think this is somehow appropriate, because you have every right to go to your mom's funeral and try to find some solace in this loss in your life. And anyone who tries to get in the way of that, in my opinion, has no business trying to be involved in your life. My parents have removed me from their will and their inheritance due to the fact that I love to travel, claiming that I'm only putting the family at risk by going overseas and that all of their health problems are because I go out of the country. And now, after I introduced them to my long-distance girlfriend from South America, they've gone no contact with me and are now refusing to go to my future wedding. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm in a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend. It's all going really well and she is a lovely person. And this will be important for background information later on. Now, my parents have always been extremely anti-travel and have never really traveled except for social obligations, such as a funeral or a wedding. But when it comes to me, I love traveling. It is the main passion or hobby in my life, and I have been to multiple countries, mostly in Latin America, but I've also been to Europe as well. Every time I have traveled internationally, we go through a whole song and dance of my parents barraging me with conspiracy theories, as well as passive-aggressive behavior, threats, and a lot more. They believe with every fiber of their being that US citizens are immediately taken and disappeared the moment they step off a plane. And they even think this about Americans visiting Canada or the United Kingdom. They believe that the fact that I travel will lead to someone hacking their bank accounts and steal their sizable savings, which is numbered in the millions of US dollars. They also blame their health issues on my travels. Any and all attempts of mine to show them that their views are wrong are just flatly ignored. When I traveled to Europe, they reacted by refusing to communicate with me for 3 months. When I traveled to Latin America previously, they did the same thing, but they also called the police to send a police officer to my house to convince me to not go on vacation. After my trip, they sent me long emails about how the fact that I traveled had caused them to have health problems and that it's my fault for being a bad son. I tried my best to ignore these behaviors and keep the peace, but also, I just tried to remember that they would leave an inheritance for me with a life-changing sum of money whenever they pass away. So I simply continue to travel and not tell them about my plans. My most recent trip was to meet my long-distance girlfriend's family in South America. I had no plans to tell my parents, but she insisted on being presented to my family via FaceTime. The FaceTime call had the reaction that I expected. My dad was cool, but my mother was rude and offensive and said mean things about my girlfriend's family due to their nationality. My family went no contact for a number of weeks and hit me up to inform me that they have removed me from their will, that I am no longer welcome to visit them, and that they will not attend my wedding if I get married in the future. They said they will donate the inheritance to political causes they support instead. Now, my girlfriend is adamant that I do something to restore the relationship with my parents. However, I have no idea how to accomplish that considering my family's hardline stance, and the fact that I, as a 33-year-old man, refuse to be bullied by my family to abandon my passion in life. Now, as some side notes, I'm financially well off and I am a homeowner, to the point that I don't have to worry about bills or groceries or anything like that, and I'm able to save a comfortable amount of money each month. However, the inheritance money would be life-changing because it's enough that I could retire immediately whenever the time comes. Also, it's very important to know that my girlfriend does not know about the inheritance and is unaware of my parents' financial status, as we have not talked about that at all. So I honestly feel so stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your parents sound incredibly unhinged, and if I'm being completely honest, they kind of sound super racist. I'm not trying to be mean and I'm not trying to make some weird judgment call against them, but based on the way they're talking about people outside the United States, as well as people of different nationalities, it really seems like they consider anybody who's not from America as some kind of like problem or a health risk. And that, in my opinion, is so disgusting and uncalled for. But more to the point, it really seems like they're trying to control every aspect of your life. And they're doing it in these like weird passive-aggressive ways where they're trying to find some way to get you to stop traveling. It's almost like they're going to use the inheritance money and try and like use it against you in some kind of way. Some kind of weird bartering chip just so you can stay in America. But in reality, there's nothing wrong with traveling. Like, that's a good and healthy thing to do. So for them to act like this and treat you like garbage is just so uncalled for, because you do not deserve this kind of treatment. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would just be like, okay, fine, I guess I'm not going to get any kind of inheritance. I'm going to plan my life, and if I'm getting nothing, then I'm getting nothing, because these people do not control your life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An idiotic group of customers refused to tell me that they have food allergies that I need to be aware of, choosing instead to wait until the last possible second just to ask for some kind of alternative. And I've honestly never been more annoyed by a group of customers in my life. Here's what happened. So at the restaurant I work at, I had a party of about 30 people yesterday. Now, this was all standard stuff. It wasn't anything crazy. They chose a dinner package, which has about 6 entree options, comes with a choice of 2 salads, either Caesar or the house Italian, and pistachio ice cream. Since there are 30 people, I wait for everyone to sit down and then I get their attention. I go through my 30-second speech. I tell them my name, I tell them about our salad, and that our ice cream has tree nuts in it. So if you have an allergy to nuts or anything else, please let me know. Now, everybody in the party was watching and listening. There was nobody whispering to each other, no one was on their phone, they all honestly seemed engaged. Well, one girl, about 14, raised her hand and said that she's allergic to nuts. So I said, no problem. We have a nut-free ice cream package separately. I go around and I take their orders, and I start bringing out drinks and salads. One lady gets halfway through her Italian salad, and then she asks me if it has mayo in it. I say yes, and then I ask her why she's asking that, and she says to me that she's allergic to mayonnaise, and then she asks for something else. So I get her a balsamic salad, which is not part of the package that they ordered, but obviously I will make an exception due to allergies. I just wish that she told me when I asked about the allergies in the first place, but I thought to myself, whatever. I drop off the balsamic, and 4 other women at the table start asking for balsamic as well, even though they are mostly done with the salads they already have. I say to them, no, I'm sorry, the Italian comes with a package that you pre-ordered. They then look at me and say, but she was allowed to get balsamic, why can't I? So I respond by saying she's allergic to mayonnaise. They are the typical needy party, but we eventually get through it. I start dropping off ice cream and get the nut-free one out first, then drop off to all the kids, and then I start with the adults. I lay the pistachio down in front of a 30-year-old man, and he asked for vanilla instead. I said to him, sorry, pistachio comes with the package, and I've already pre-scooped all of the ice cream, which is something that I do myself. He then looks at me and says, oh, but I'm allergic to pistachios. And trust me, the look I gave this man was very telling. If a server asks you if you have any allergies, just tell them. It's really simple. Now, obviously, they could have both been lying about their allergies, but I have no way of knowing that, and I have to take their claims very seriously. But if you know you're just being a picky jerk, then lie about your allergies earlier, please. That way, I don't have to double back and redo things that I've already done to accommodate you. And overall, I honestly can't believe that out of all of these people, the only ones smart enough to tell me about her allergy is the teenager. That has seriously got to be super annoying to deal with. I can't imagine being a server and being like, okay, if you've got allergies, let me know. And then you serve them their food and they're like, wait a second, I'm allergic to mayonnaise. And it's like, hey, did you remember that conversation I had like 20 minutes ago? Why are you waiting until you're halfway done with your salad before you tell me something like this? Like, I don't know about you, but if I had a health allergy that could like threaten my life, and I'm like, hey, if I eat mayonnaise or tree nuts or whatever, I will definitely pass away on your floor. If I had that information in my head, I'd be saying it immediately. And for the record, I think that last guy was lying. I do not think that he was allergic to pistachios at all. I think he just wanted some different ice cream because he didn't like the flavor of the pistachio one. But regardless, this sounded like a really annoying thing to deal with, and I think the original poster handled it very well. Am I the jerk for telling my stepmom to not come to my graduation, all because she simply said she can't be in the same room as my mom? Because right now, I am so sick of their stupid dispute, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, my parents divorced when I was 3 years old because my dad was having an affair with my stepmom. My mom and stepmom were work rivals and had a strong dislike for each other, even before the affair. There has always been speculation that this is why my stepmom willingly became the other woman, because she disliked my mom so much. Now, I was aware of this, and not because of my parents, but because of drama that would kick off with my dad's side of the family, and I was present for some of my dad's relatives' speculations about this. Now, my parents did not get along after the affair, and tensions were high whenever my mom and stepmom were in the same room. My stepmom had 3 pregnancies that ended in miscarriage. The first 2 were, I guess, typical normal miscarriages, but the third one caused my stepmom a lot of medical issues, and that led to her never being able to have kids ever again. So she and my dad never got to have a living child together. After the third miscarriage, my stepmom wanted me around because she wanted to feel like a parent, and she wanted to know that she would still have me. She and my dad asked my mom if they could extend their time with me, and my mom laughed in her face and told her that she didn't care what she had been through, and she would not let me be used as a band-aid. My stepmom argued that she deserved compassion for what she was going through, and it would be good for me to get that little extra attention and love since I wasn't going to have any siblings ever. Well, my mom told her that she would never have compassion for her and didn't feel sorry for her at all. She told her she didn't deserve to be a mom after taking part in the end of my stability within my family. She did blame my dad as well, but that has never been focused on as much by my dad and stepmom or his family. After that, my mom and stepmom were never in the same place together. They had third parties take care of exchanges of me until I was old enough to hop out of a car and into the home I was returning to. Once they realized I knew details of what happened, my dad and stepmom were vocal about mom being cruel and hurtful to my stepmom, and that was why they weren't ever in the same room together. A few times I even picked up on their desire for me to hate my mom for them, but I just don't do that. I try to stay neutral, which my mom encourages. But if I have to pick in this situation, I am team mom all the way. I'm graduating from high school in a couple of months, and my dad and stepmother brought up that my stepmom doesn't feel like she should be around my mom and does not want to be there with my mom. They then told me that they feel it would be best if I make it clear to my mom that she can't be there, but I told them that my mom will be there. Then my stepmom told me that she can't be in the same room as her after what she did to her. So I said to her, okay, then just don't come. I told her I wasn't going to beg her to be there and that I wanted my mom there, and they weren't going to stop me. They asked me how I could say that knowing how mom treated my stepmother, and they asked me to be more compassionate. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Wow, your stepmom and dad will literally do anything to justify their affair. They'll play the victim, they'll play the assailant, they will literally gaslight you and guilt trip you, they'll try to turn you against your mom. Like seriously, these people sound awful. For starters, it's insane to me that the stepmom is trying to act like the victim, as if they've been offended by what your mom has said to her. But in reality, she's just looking for something, anything to try and be like, oh yeah, this is it. This is why I hate your mom. She offended me. Oh my God. And that's like seriously insane to me. And even now, at the apex of your high school career, right when you're about to graduate, your dad and stepmom look at you and actually say, oh, you should just make sure your mom's not there. You need to make it clear that she can't be there. And it's like, what are these people doing? Do they really think that this strategy is going to somehow make them come out on top? Because right now it's only making them look like fools. So honestly, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this, but I am right there with you. I am team mom 100% of the way, because your dad and stepmom are absolutely out of line here. And the fact that they want to ban your mom from your graduation graduation, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for canceling my gender reveal party for my baby after my husband tells everybody about my baby's gender? Because right now I'm very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I had planned to do a very small gender reveal on Easter for my husband's family, and since this is our last child, and we missed out on doing all the fun stuff like a gender reveal for our other child due to COVID restrictions, I just wanted to get this experience once. Well, my husband's brother has been bothering my husband for weeks as he wants to be told the gender since we have known about it for 2 months now. Now, my husband consistently kept telling him no, and that he needed to wait for the gender reveal just like everybody else. Well, last night, my husband finally had enough of his brother and just gave in and texted him the gender. Now, I was not asked if this was okay, and he just did this on his own. This is also not the first time my brother-in-law has made everything about what he wanted and not what we wanted. He also had told the family that we were pregnant without our permission, all before we had announced to everybody too, by the way, because he felt that he could, and we never told him not to tell anybody. And this is along with many other things over the years. So honestly, most things with him are a sensitive topic for me. Well, when I found out that he was told, and that he told his wife, I told my husband I had no interest in doing the gender reveal any longer. My husband had also already slipped to his mom by using the gender-related pronouns when talking to the baby, so she already knows the gender, which means her husband does too. There were only going to be 6 people at the gender reveal, and now that 4 out of the 6 already know the gender, I said that it's not worth all my time, effort, and money to buy everything and set it up to only surprise 2 people. It's just not worth it in my eyes. Well, I'm now being told that I'm just ridiculous, that I'm a jerk, I'm being overly emotional, and that I need to see a therapist for my mental instability, for being angry that my brother-in-law got his way again, and that I don't even want a gender reveal any longer. I honestly feel like my brother-in-law yet again took away my chance of getting a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and he's done similar things like this in the past. So am I the jerk for not wanting to have this gender reveal any longer? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, I don't think you're the jerk for canceling the party altogether, but I do think you're misplacing the blame. Yes, it sounds like your brother-in-law is incredibly obnoxious and it's really good not to tell him anything, but this doesn't seem like a brother-in-law problem. If anything, it seems like a husband problem. Like your husband simply can't keep any secrets, it seems like. He literally told 4 of the 6 people what's going on and what the gender of the baby is. And honestly, I'm right there with you. If 4 out of the 6 people already know the gender of the baby, then there is no point in having a gender reveal at all. I would cancel it as well. Like, that seriously is so stupid. And the fact that your husband would call you mentally unstable all because you're disappointed in his actions, in my opinion, is so toxic. Like, you're not mentally unstable, but instead your husband's an idiot for not keeping a better lid on the baby's gender. Like, seriously, this all comes back to him spilling the beans, not on you. Because in my opinion, I think you're the only one being rational in this scenario. And it's also really sad that your husband's not like standing up for you and not like standing by your side or even understanding where you're coming from in the first place. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I think the way your husband and your family is reacting is completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for having conflict with my husband about how he wants to resolve going to not only my friend's wedding, but also going to a concert with all of his friends? Because right now, the way we have things set up really does not sit well with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband told me his close friends that live a few hours away want to come to our city for a 4-day music festival and stay with us. And I say, great, I love them. And he doesn't get to hang out with them very much. We haven't seen them since November, and we see them maybe 4 to 5 times a year. Then he tells me the date is over the May weekend of my friend's wedding. Now, for some background, this is not just any friend. She was maid of honor at our wedding. He's known her for the 7 years since we've been together. She was a huge help at our wedding, and her fiance even helped us with cleanup. I'm in her wedding now about 3 hours away, and I'll be gone from Thursday until Sunday. While he likes my friend, he doesn't want to miss the time with his friends. I suggested he go Thursday and Friday to the concert, and then drive up for the wedding Saturday and Sunday, and his friends can stay at our house. But he doesn't want to do that. For starters, he says he wants as much time with his friends as possible since he doesn't see them that much, but also the concert is expensive, and he would have to buy 1 ticket that covers all the days. If I really want him to be there, his suggestion was to drive the 3 hours to the wedding on Saturday, stay for the ceremony and reception, but not drink at all, and then leave immediately afterwards, and drive the 3 hours back. Now, I did get mad at that point and said that didn't work for me because I don't want him to go go only to be in a rush to leave. I want to relax and enjoy my friend's special day with my husband. We can relax and have a couple of drinks without worry. I even have a hotel room, and there is a shuttle bus back, so I was looking forward to not having to worry about finding a ride. Well, he doesn't see the big deal. I said I don't want him to attend just out of obligation, and neither with a bride and groom. They're paying a lot for the guests to be there, and I said that even if he left Sunday morning, I could get on board with that even though it's still not ideal for me. Well, he got mad and said that he doesn't get to see his friends that much and he feels isolated. For reference, we moved from my work about 6 months ago to live in a city that we don't know many people. I said that we should look for ways to help that, but that this shouldn't change anything about these plans. I feel isolated too, but I wouldn't dream of missing his best friend's wedding if things were reversed. He did come back an hour later and say he was sorry that he hurt my feelings, and he recognizes that it's important for me and of course my best friend, and he wanted to find a way to meet both of our needs. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting him to drive home that night? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting him to drive home, but I really have to disagree with all of your logic here. With his original plan, he would be there for the ceremony, and sure, he could probably stay a little bit longer, like at the reception or something like that. I think that might be some wiggle room to like have some kind of compromise, but it seems like you're getting really weird about the fact that he's driving back home. Like, we're talking about friends he hasn't seen in a long time. He moved to a new city, so he obviously feels homesick, and he misses these people in his life. So it would make sense that he would want to go see them. So in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with him going to the concert, as well as fulfilling this obligation to come to the wedding. And honestly, I've got to say, I think the bride and groom will be completely fine with him showing up. They're not going to look at him and be like, wow, he doesn't want to be here. He's only here because he's obligated to be there. They're probably going to be like, oh wow, he showed up. That's awesome. We're so glad he's here. This guy's willing to drive 3 hours just to go to this wedding and participate in a ceremony that's obviously important to you and your friend. If he didn't want to be there, he wouldn't show up. He would stay at the concert with his friends and be like, nope, I'm definitely not going. But he's willing to drive there. Like, that, in my opinion, doesn't sound like someone who doesn't want to be at the wedding. And it doesn't sound like they're only there out of obligation. I'm sure he's going to be pleasant and like agreeable just like anybody else. So I don't think that that accusation is correct at all in my opinion. And I think his willingness to be there shows a lot more than what you're assuming he's actually feeling. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for being worried about this, but I think the blame is being misplaced in a major way, because it really seems like he's making a serious effort to be there at the wedding itself. And I think that deserves a lot more consideration, especially with the way that you're framing it. My fiance no longer wants to get married to me until I can prove my faith once and for all is 100% genuine. And even though he gave me the ultimatum that he wouldn't marry me unless I joined his church, he is now saying that that is simply not enough, and that if I'm not a believer of everything he believes in, then our future marriage is not going to work out. Here's what happened. I'm a 34-year-old female and my fiance is 32 years old. We started dating in early 2023 and quickly realized that we wanted a future with each other. In January of 2024, he proposed to me and I said yes, because I love him just as he is and I would not change anything about him. We set a date for July of 2024. Well, with that being said, in February, he was acting very distant, which is something he has done in the past, so I knew that something was wrong. He said that it was a problem that I did not belong to his church and that it would eventually cause confusion for his daughter if I went to my church. Now, I was already questioning if my church was the right one, but I wanted to be sure before I converted to his. Unfortunately, he gave me an ultimatum. If you don't join my church, I cannot marry you. Now, that did cause me to question what it was that was keeping me from joining, and I ultimately decided that this was going to be the right decision for me and our family, especially now that we would have the same faith and help his daughter grow her own faith of her own. He started to get excited about the wedding, and he went to sign a contract for our reception. Now, no money was put down, but it was just a signature. I had my bridesmaids buy their dresses, I purchased a photographer and scheduled our engagement session, and I bought a wedding dress and I sent it for alterations. Then, 3 days ago on March 15th, he said that he believes I'm only converting for him, and that if he didn't give me the ultimatum, I wouldn't have converted, that he does not see that I have the passion to learn more about the faith, and that I'm only doing this because I want to get married so badly. He believes that if we get married, that I will change my mind and go back to my old church and try to take our future children away from our church that we go to now. Basically, he wants to postpone the wedding until he can get over the anxiety and the gut feeling he has about my faith. He believes if I start inquiring more about the faith, that this will help him not be nervous about marrying me. Also, he still does not know if he wants children with me, but that is a separate issue altogether. I'm at the point where I just don't know if I should continue in this relationship with a constant sick feeling in my stomach and feeling like I'll never be good enough. I am already divorced, and it was my ex that lost interest and felt that I was not good enough to be his wife. My faith has always been the quality that I love the most about myself, and to think that someone does not find it genuine or that I would use it to tear my family apart is devastating. So I'm honestly feeling so stuck, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, but in my opinion, this does not sound like a healthy relationship. Like, for starters, this guy gave you an ultimatum. He basically said, you either join my church or I'm not gonna get married. So you go through the work and you join his faith. And just when you think everything's good, he suddenly turns around and changes the goalpost. And now he's trying to say, ooh, you gotta prove your faith, because right now I don't believe you. Like, what is going on right now? This is so weird to me. Like, you already joined his church. Like, what else are you supposed to do to prove, like, yeah, I'm on board, like, let's just get this going? So I can kind of understand why you're feeling hesitant about moving forward. Like, if I'm being completely honest, this guy kind of sounds like a basket case. And he's also, in a roundabout way, accusing you of ruining the marriage in the future. Like, he just made up this idea in his head that you're gonna somehow leave the church and drag your kids along with it and ruin everything. But it's like you've never done anything like that in the past to even indicate that, so it leaves you standing there thinking, like, what in the world is going on? What are you talking about, buddy? Because I'm willing to bet and put money on the fact that you have no desire to ruin your future marriage. And I'm sure you're not gonna drag your hypothetical future kids away, all in some kind of like long game plot just to like take your kids away from your husband's church. Like, this really sounds insane. Like, I'm not even kidding. So hopefully this all works out for you and you specifically, because from the sounds of it, your future husband sounds incredibly unhinged. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving my sister's bridal party after she told me that my dad's girlfriend is gonna be the maid of honor? Because right now I'm very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, when I was a teen, my parents ended up getting a divorce. My mom got full custody because my dad said he needed time off as he couldn't take care of us when everything was still raw. When he was around, he spent most of his time with my sister rather than me, as she needed him more. This was a sore spot for me growing up, especially when he made an effort for my sister but never for me. He has tried to reconcile, and while we aren't on the best of terms, I've grown to accept it. He ended up meeting Jennifer at a bar and they hit it off. Jennifer is not her real name. While I personally don't mind him moving on, Jennifer was obsessed with the idea of reconciling our relationship. The few times I've met her, she would get into arguments with me claiming that my dad only wants his daughter back and to give him a chance. Last summer, we were having dinner at my sister's flat where she and dad were discussing an upcoming family vacation. When Jennifer asked what I thought about the trip, I informed her that I wasn't going. She immediately started questioning me about it. Suffice to say, it ended up in a screaming match as she was claiming I was purposefully icing her and my dad out. I told her I was a grown adult and that if she didn't like it, she had someone else following her around like a puppy. My dad got involved and I ended up choosing to leave, but not before shouting that I was my mom's lapdog. My sister ended up kicking them both out afterwards as well. I haven't spoken to either my dad or Jennifer ever since that day. With my sister's upcoming wedding, I've expected to see them there, and I've made my peace to just stay as far away as possible. But a few days ago, she told me that she had a maid of honor in mind. She claimed that Jennifer has been nothing but sweet to her, and that she felt like she was her close friend. As she was talking, she said that Jennifer was really sorry and was trying to reach out to apologize, but I cut her off. I told her if she wanted her as a maid of honor, it was her wedding and her choice. But I personally did not want to be in a position where I have to keep interacting with her over every little detail. I would still attend the wedding, but I wouldn't be a bridesmaid. Well, this made her tear up. She begged me to reconsider as she really wanted me to be a part of her big day. But I told her I will be, but just as an attendee. In the end, she said it's okay, but asked me to please reconsider. News got to my dad and Jennifer, and now my dad has sent several messages telling me that I'm acting like a child and that I'm ruining my sister's big day. So am I the jerk here? I feel like this way we can avoid any potential conflict, but I also want to be a part of her day. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way Jennifer tried to push you into a relationship with your dad and how overbearing they were being honestly is so unacceptable. And if they really wanted to apologize to you, they would have reached out and called you directly and apologized. Like, in my opinion, I refuse to give my time or space or energy to anybody who owes me an apology. or somebody who's gonna badmouth me behind my back, and then when it's convenient, act like we're best friends and that we're family. It's like, no, we're not. You ruined that years ago. This is not my fault that you decided to act like an idiot. And now instead of like repairing the relationship years ago, you decide to try and like flip the script and act like it's my fault? Like, what are you doing? And also, why on earth is your sister having a 57-year-old woman as your maid of honor? Like, she knows there's conflict between the two of you. She could have just turned her down and not allowed this to like ruin her big day. And it also puts the original poster in a corner that it doesn't look like they're ready to face yet. And that, in my opinion, is just not fair. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think everybody else here is completely misguided. And I think you have every right to back out, especially if they're gonna try and force the issue. Am I the jerk for not wanting to do the prank the bride is asking me to do during her wedding ceremony? Because honestly, I feel very uncomfortable with it. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old male, and I'm one of the groomsmen for my best friend's wedding. His fiance is a known jokester and likes pulling pranks that doesn't affect anyone beyond making us laugh. Just stupid, funny things that she would go out of her way to do just to make us laugh. It's never anything hurtful, and the farthest she's ever gone was pretending to accidentally destroy the groom's awful laptop and then surprise him with a brand new modern Alienware, which is the very one that he'd been saving up for 2 years. She also backed up everything and only destroyed the screen, so stuff could be salvaged just in case. Now, it's honestly pretty sweet stuff. My friend is a bit more of the serious and logical type, so she balances him out a lot. He finds her antics pretty amusing too, and it's probably a driving factor in their relationship. Now, with that bit of context out of the way, here's what's going on. So neither of them really care for the ceremony aspect of a wedding. They're going to get a courthouse wedding and save the money for a nice reception with only close friends and family. There's going to be 3 witnesses, namely me, the best man, and the maid of honor. And the wedding will have at most 4 or 5 more friends and some of the groom's family. The bride was all for this, as she can get really anxious in big events like this, but she still feels like it's nothing to really write home about. So she wants to pull a pretty notable prank by having a dramatic objection or something like that during the ceremony. Since I'll be the only one there, she wants me to do the objection thing, make it seem like I'm going for her, and then as a plot twist, go for the groom. Then she wants us to do a sword fight for his hand. Now, I wish I was joking, but she and the groom actually have a sizable sword collection, and she said that she would get her maid of honor to sneak in 2 of the smaller ones. The maid of honor, who was there while the bride was talking to me, interjected and said that it was a stupid idea, and when someone finally said it, I felt immediate relief. But she said that she would get fake swords, since there could be issues in smuggling in actual weapons. Plus, she would run it by the official in charge, and whoever else that she'd have to at the courthouse, to make sure that not too much commotion was created. And when she said that, my stress went right back up. Now, I admittedly am a bit of a doormat, and I didn't outright say no at first, and I was hoping the maid of honor would say something. Then I realized I needed to pull my big boy pants on and say no, which is exactly what I did, and I was very happy about that. But unfortunately, they weren't happy at all, and not in an angry way, but in a way that made me feel immediately guilty. And as a result, I stupidly offered to think of a different joke to pull. They've since added me into a group chat where I've constantly tried to reiterate how I don't feel comfortable with pranks, but they tried to reassure me, trying to get me to reconsider in some kind of way. The maid of honor is calling me a jerk for not following the bride's wishes, as well as one of our other mutual friends who the bride talked to about this. It's now getting harder and harder to stick to my no. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would stick to my original answer. First of all, playing a prank at somebody's wedding, regardless of what kind of like repertoire you have between the two of you, in my opinion is not a good idea. Like, that really is a special day, and despite the fact that they're not taking it seriously, I would much rather err on the side of caution instead of potentially messing something up for one of my friends. Also, why do you have to be the one to step in and be like, no, I'll sword fight you? Like, why can't the maid of honor step in and do it instead? I mean, if they're really on board with it and they don't see a problem with it, then why can't they do it? Why does it have to be you? Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I know whenever I'm in like a serious situation of some kind, or in a situation where like the stakes are kind of high, and this really is a moment to remember, the last thing I want to have is someone pranking me. Even if I do have some kind of like special repertoire with them, where we do pranks on each other and we have a good time. Like, maybe that's just me, but it would have to be someone I'm incredibly close with for me to be okay with that. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for not being on board with this, and hopefully they can find someone else to play their prank. My parents give out money freely to everybody in my extended family, but when they give me money, they expect me to sign a contract and they consider this a loan. And I'm so tired of being treated this this way, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that everyone else is gifted money, cars, services, and dental care. They pay for things for their extended families that they move away from, and all of my dad's parents and siblings have needed financial help at times, and they support his dad monthly. I've seen my mom unconditionally support my dad after he did things like max out 4 Shell station gas cards assigned to each member of our family on gas station lottery scratchers. I was the only child driving at the time, and I was accused daily of doing this. They had to pay Shell back a lot of money when the truth came out. Now, I did not get an apology, and my mom started making me give her receipts every time I used it, even though my dad was the one running up the bill. He got bailed out of becoming addicted to gas station caffeine pills. Now, I'm not saying I wish my mom hadn't helped him. I'm just saying that I saw these things, and I so thought that my parents were kind and generous people who supported relatives in need. Well, I became in need of financial support recently after a divorce, not to mention COVID and changing careers. I thought my parents would help me like I've seen them help other extended family members, but no. Instead, my parents made me sign a contract to pay them back before they would even give me desperately needed money. Well, I just paid them back the final $240 that they insisted on collecting while I am unemployed, sick, and stressed by my landlord not fixing the snake hole nest of a property that I live on. And this is while my partner's family is bankrolling our rent so I can focus on finding a better job. I ended my marriage with $33,000 in debt because my ex had paid off all my student loans in that amount in the first year of our marriage. I had that much debt because my dad got his master's and a specialist degree also in the 4 years that I was in high school. So there was no money for me. They refused to co-sign on cheap off-campus housing because they were scared. So I was forced to take out loans for $1,200 a month plus $600 more a month required for a meal plan while living on campus. Now, to be fair, my parents have helped some. They asked me to create a spreadsheet of all my debt, and so I did exactly that. They gave me $1,200 to give my ex-boyfriend, who helped me after my divorce, and another $1,200 to pay one debt. All the while, they were charging me $400 monthly for rent to stay with them in between apartments, and I was extremely grateful for this help, and I always will be. But seriously, why am I the only relative to pay them back? I've asked this question point blank, and the responses I've been given were not encouraging. They said to me that my marriage didn't fail, and that I'm just ungrateful. They then said to me, "We only needed your help when we had children, and you didn't have children. You are just ungrateful. You're the only one that can afford to pay us back too, by the way. And this way, you won't feel guilty and like you owe relatives money." But honestly, it's hard to be grateful for loans when everyone else is getting gifts. And at this point, I feel like I'm drowning. Yeah, your parents are being very vindictive towards you because it sounds like they have a very clear double standard. They're willing to give out money to pretty much everybody that isn't you and would instead force you to sign some kind of contract instead of, like, I don't know, trying to help out their kid. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, and it seems like there's some kind of like weird animosity towards you that you definitely don't deserve. So in the future, and I'm sure you already know this, I would never ask them for money ever again. I would prefer to go to literally anybody else on the planet instead of going to them asking for any kind of money, because this is how they're going to treat you. And in my opinion, you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not going with my ex to get her surgery, all because she just recently broke up with me? Because right now she's calling me a massive jerk. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So about 2 months back, my girlfriend, who is now my ex, put down a deposit to get a mommy makeover done in Miami, and I agreed to take a week off of work and go with her to pick her up after her surgery and just be an overall presence after all was said and done. Mind you, this procedure is purely cosmetic and not necessary, but I understand this is something that she wanted for a long time and she was really excited about it. We have a pretty on-again, off-again relationship where she will leave but I won't, but she always ends up coming back. The last time we broke up before this incident was maybe a week before we were supposed to fly out, and she broke up with me because she feels like I don't do enough and I can't provide her with the type of lifestyle that she wants, and she can always find someone who can. We break up and 2 days later end up back together again. She's broken up with me a lot over money, or feeling like I don't have enough of it, or she doesn't like the fact that I'm not buying her things or paying her bills. For example, I refused to take her out for ice cream one night 4 days before we were supposed to fly out because I wanted as much money as possible when making a trip like that, and she just completely flipped out and broke up with me again, stating she shouldn't have to lower her standards when she knows there are people in this world who are willing to give her what she wants. place. She asked me to pack up my stuff that's at her place and leave, so I do just that. Then the next day she calls me and tries to get me to come over, but I say no because I'm really hurt this time, and I inform her that I'm not going to Miami with her any longer. Well, she obviously freaks out because it's such a short amount of time and she won't be able to find anyone else to go with her, but she's still choosing to go out there and have the surgery done regardless. I begged her not to, but she's going through with it anyways and keeps telling me that I'm a bad person for not doing this for her, even when she asked me nicely and knows how important it is to her. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. It really sounds like your girlfriend is using you for money, and it doesn't sound like she loves you at all. Like she literally only wants you to go to Miami so you can take care of her and be there to pick her up from the surgery. And this is an elective surgery. It probably would not cost any money to be like, yeah, I'm gonna back out. Or something like that. Yeah, you still have a flight to Miami, but like go to the beach or something. Don't guilt trip your now ex-boyfriend who you broke up with, by the way, and then expect him to want anything to do with you. So honestly, I really hope this breakup is the last breakup because you deserve so much better than this, because your ex is being very rude to you and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for having loud construction work done in my house? Because right now my neighbors are angry, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I bought a modest townhouse with my wife in a quiet street near a popular area of the city. It shares walls with neighbors on both sides, and we bought it because of the great location. But the house is currently uninhabitable due to the drainage issues, the mold in the bathroom, the ceilings coming down, and the electrical problems. A full renovation is needed, and we need to demolish all the bad stuff. This means drilling through walls, floors, and the concrete foundation. We hired a construction crew to do most of the heavy lifting for us. They started demolishing 2 days ago and scheduled these works for another 5 days. The heavy machines needed for this job make a lot of noise and they produce dust. Well, our neighbors on one side recently converted their house into an Airbnb that accommodated 10 people. When we met them about a month ago, they showed us around in their house while we were discussing renovations. They rent out their house for about $600 a day and had guests over today while our construction crew was working on the demolition job. And it's right about then that the guests started complaining at our construction crew first, escalating to our neighbors who then called my wife. Their guests have canceled the rest of their booking due to all the noise. Our neighbor's Airbnb relies on good reviews, and having loud noise is obviously not good for business. During the call with my wife, they discussed the upcoming booking schedule and request for us to keep the noise down when they have a guest staying over. But we, however, cannot keep the noise down without stopping all the work temporarily due to all the other jobs relying on their demolition work being done first. If we were to follow their schedule and stop the work during the days that they have a guest over, it would cause a 7-day delay in our plans, not even counting the weekend. Since we are renting, and our rental contract ends soon, every day that we are postponed from moving in would cost us about $100 for a hotel. On top of that, the construction crew would also have about $40 a day of costs in terms of rescheduling work in other locations to accommodate this request. We basically told our neighbors that we would be willing to follow their request if they would reimburse us for the cost that comes with it, which is about $980 for the total delay. Now, we understand that our neighbors have a business and don't want to ruin their reviews, but in my opinion, doing business comes with a cost, and I don't think it's totally unreasonable to have 7 days of noisy work done during working hours once a year. They received our offer and scolded my wife, telling us to be more considerate of our neighbors and to be very thoughtful of our next steps. Now, I'm not planning on stopping the work and paying out of pocket for the profits of their business. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yeah, it really sounds like they're threatening you in some kind of way when they're like, ooh, you better watch your next steps. Like seriously, that is really sketchy and I would not take that lightly. So if I was in your shoes, I would start documenting everything. I would set up cameras or even record interactions if that's like allowed in your state, and just be ready for anything these idiots try to do to you. Because here's the facts. You are 100% entitled to have work done in your new home. I'm sure there's laws surrounding like loud noise or anything like that, but as long as you're working within certain hours, then I'm pretty sure there's nothing they can do about it. But I would check just to be sure, because you never know if they try to pull a fast one. So overall, I don't think you're the jerk, because I think your neighbors are being completely unreasonable. An entitled crazy Karen refuses to let me leave the parking lot unless I hand over my bicycle tire pump and allow her to use it for her bike. Things got so bad that a park ranger came over and tried to intervene and eventually had to threaten to call the police just to get her to leave me alone. And I'm still completely blown away by this crazy lady's entitlement. Here's what happened. So I was cycling at a local park earlier today. It's a sandy area, so I lower the pressure in the tires to make rolling over obstacles easier. I got back to the parking lot, I put the bike on the car rack, I pulled out a pump, and I filled the tires back up to the normal pressure. As I disconnected the pump and moved to stow it in the car and drive home, someone cleared their throat loudly behind me. I turned around and there was a woman there with a bike with an obvious flat. She said to me, "Well, it took you long enough to finish doing your bike first instead of park visitors. Now pump up my tires." Now, I obviously looked very confused, but she continued and said, "Do your job." For reference, I was dressed in a khaki green polo shirt and my car is green, and I realized that she thought I worked for the park district. I said to her, "I don't work for the park district. This is my car and my bike." Well, she didn't believe me and wanted my supervisor's name and demanded again that I fill up her tire. At this point, I was getting annoyed. I said to her, "I do not work here. If you had asked nicely, I might have helped you, but your high-handed attitude means that I won't, so I'm gonna leave now." I got in the car and I started it, and she actually stood behind the car, refusing to let me back out, all the while directing a steady stream of invectives at me with surprising variety and volume. Thankfully, a real park ranger heard the noise and walked over. She told him I wasn't doing my job and had refused to help her, and she wanted to report me to the park supervisor. I explained that I was trying to leave, and she was blocking me because she wanted me to fill her tire after calling me a number of delightful names, including a lazy public employee. He looked at me, looked at her, shook his head as if to say this happened again, and then told her he doesn't work for us. He has no obligation to do anything for you, and if this is how you're behaving, I can see why he won't help you. Now please, move and let him leave. After a little more discussion, including the ranger telling her that he'd call the local police for some sort of unlawful detainment if she didn't let me go, she then finally let me go. As I drove off, she was giving the ranger a piece of her mind at the top of her lungs, and despite all that, her tire probably remained completely flat. Wow, some people really are super entitled. Like, this lady walked up to a random guy in the parking lot and said, "Give me your bike pump right now, you need to pump up my tires." Like, first of all, why would you be so aggressive about that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, couldn't you just ask in a normal tone and be like, "Hey, by the way, can I borrow your tire pump? I need it for my bike real quick, is that okay?" Or something like that. Anything other than what she did. Like, she was automatically, like, right off the get-go incredibly aggressive for, like, no reason. This guy didn't even do anything to her. He wasn't even talking to her. She just assumed, oh my god, it's another park ranger not doing their job. Why aren't they paying attention to every need that I have? And also, like, why would you go to the park with a bike and not have some kind of bicycle pump that you bring with you? Doesn't that come along with, like, having a bike and maintaining it and all this other stuff? Like, even just a simple, like, hand pump that you can use if you get, like, a flat tire or something like that. But I honestly wish I was a fly on the wall to see the expression of the original poster, because I think I would also be very confused by this person yelling at me and being so aggressive over something so mundane. And it's crazy to me that she even went as far as blocking him from leaving in his car. Like, this Karen is 100% unhinged and nobody can tell me otherwise. So good for the original poster for eventually getting out of there, because that lady was crazy and I don't blame you for wanting to get away. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my brother that he is not allowed to be around my new girlfriend? Because in the past, he's gotten in the way of me having a romantic partner, and this time around, I refuse to allow him to do that again. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old male and my older brother's 22, and we both work at the same factory. About 5 months ago, me and him became friends with a woman who's 23 who also works at the factory with us. Soon after we became friends with this woman, she lost her apartment, and since me and my brother both live in the same house, we told her that she could live with us. I have never had feelings for this woman, but her and my brother had decided to go out a few times. They were never exclusive, but they were well on their way to becoming exclusive, and they were just taking things slow. While he and this woman were going out, me and him became friends with another woman. I expressed feelings for this new woman, and my brother very well knew that. Soon after we became friends with this woman, he asked her out knowing full and well that I liked her, and soon after they became exclusive. Also, he had completely left behind the woman that we met at the factory. He screwed over the factory woman bad because he told her that he could possibly see a future with her, but when he met the other woman, he left her behind and never talked to her again. Now, for reference, this is not the first time he's made a move on a woman that he knew I had feelings for. He has done this 2 times in the past, and every time he does it, they just start dating. I thought that it was just a 2-time thing, but now with the most recent event happening, I'm starting to think that he does it on purpose. Fast forward, and just recently, recently we were talking and I mentioned that I had gotten a girlfriend. He got excited and was very eager to meet her, but I informed him that he would not be meeting her, nor would I bring him around her. He then got confused and asked me why, and I reminded him that he has dated 3 women in the past that I had feelings for, and that I know he does it on purpose. He then started crying and telling me that it hurts him that I would say that about him, but in response, I simply got up and walked away. The thing that convinced me that he does it on purpose is the fact that he was very close to being exclusive with a factory woman, but he broke her heart and left her for the woman that I developed feelings for. The reason I will never bring him around my new girlfriend is not because I'm insecure that she will leave me for him, but I fear that he will make a move on her, and that is not only disrespectful, but I know it will make her uncomfortable. Me and him have always had a rivalry, and he always tried to prove that he is better than me, and I'm trying to put a stop to it because we are both adults, and he needs to start acting like it. So I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, based on everything you've shared, I personally do not think you're the jerk. Your brother's track record absolutely betrays him in this department. Like, this guy has a history of ruining relationships for you and basically stepping in and getting in the way. And that, in my opinion, is not okay. Like, even based on what you're describing for this one singular moment with the lady from the factory, as well as the new lady you met besides the lady from the factory, it really does seem like your brother does this stuff on purpose. Like, he literally steps in between you and any romantic relationship and just snatches them away before you even have a chance to say anything to them. So I can completely understand your frustration in this regard. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, because I think it would be safer for your girlfriend to stay away from your brother, because his past record is absolutely very sketchy, and the last thing you would ever want is for him to ruin this new relationship. My girlfriend thinks that my family is too controlling over our relationship, and this is because my family basically tried to take over my visit with my girlfriend, who has been a long-distance girlfriend for the past 21 months, and right now I'm kind of at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm in a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend for 21 months now, and I'm 2 weeks away from flying to her so we can physically meet for the first time. We would always FaceTime every day and night, and we would Discord almost 24/7, and we really do love each other and we want to be together. My girlfriend doesn't like it when she notices that I do everything my mom says, and she thinks that I let my mom control our relationship too much. For reference, I'm 22 years old and my girlfriend is 25. For example, when I asked my mom whether she would allow me to fly alone for 13 hours to see my girlfriend for 2 weeks, I am using my own money for my trip, and my mom was against it at first, but it took a few more stressful days to finally get her to let me go and be okay about me leaving. Now, I talked to her about it in the first place because I don't want to be like those other people who do things behind their families' backs, like buying a plane ticket without my parents knowing, because I love my parents and I thought it was right to let them know first. My mom wanted to let my aunt pick me and my girlfriend up from the airport as soon as I landed. And at first, my girlfriend was against it because she's awkward by the fact that she would be waiting with my aunt because they aren't that close, and she thought it wasn't necessary as we could just take an Uber to my girlfriend's apartment. But we eventually came to a decision that it's fine and that my aunt can pick us both up. My aunt then privately messaged me asking if we would like to sleep over at their place and that they would gather everyone to see me after 6 years, and I actually asked my girlfriend about how she felt about that, as she hasn't met my relatives besides my aunt. She said she was okay with it as long as we wouldn't sleep there on the first day, because we both thought it would be weird that the first day of us meeting would be with other people. So anyways, we all decided on April 13th for us to go there. Then we started planning out other things to do and places to go, and we booked a lot of hotels and had places in mind. We then decided to go to this place that is a 1-hour drive from where my mom's family lives, and I told my mom about it, and she then tells me that we should go visit grandma and grandpa while we're there, and we should stay there overnight. So I asked my girlfriend and she was okay with it. So everything was going smoothly until recently my girlfriend said that we should go on a camping trip with her friends because they want to see me and they'll bring their boyfriends as well. I said sure, that's totally fine with me, but they all ended up choosing the 22nd to go on the trip, which would then cancel out the stayover at my aunt's place. My girlfriend requested that we move the date of the stayover, so I asked my aunt. She said the 13th would be the best time as my cousins and relatives are available and they could come. Any other day won't work for them because they have a busy schedule and not everyone lives there. I told my girlfriend that and she started to stress out because her friends also have busy schedules and the 13th would be the only time to make this work. I asked my girlfriend if we could just meet up with her friends for lunch or something like that, and she said that they won't want to drive 2 hours just for lunch. They want to do something that's fun and worth everybody's time. So after stressing, I decided to listen to my girlfriend, and she made me realize this trip wasn't about seeing family. It's about our time together. She said if they were family, they would listen to me and support my decision, and they could make other days available for me, and I agreed with her. After telling my mom this, she was disappointed that I'm choosing my girlfriend over seeing my relatives. But my girlfriend didn't have a problem with us meeting anyone. She was okay with seeing my grandparents, but my girlfriend thought it was only fair that she introduces me to her two best friends. I mean, these people are like sisters to her. I then had a whole argument with my girlfriend, and I would really like for us not to be fighting over this. We are okay now, but I just hate picking sides because it's just not my thing. I love my girlfriend, and I love and respect my family too, but I don't think I'm in the wrong to choose my girlfriend over family gatherings. And I'm also not saying that I'm super close with my cousins and relatives, but whenever we fly there, my family and I would be at their place and spend the time with them. I mean, the whole purpose of the trip was to see my girlfriend, and I'm only there for 2 weeks, which is not enough time. Now, as a long story short, my mom and aunt have already met my girlfriend when last year my mom flew there, and my girlfriend wanted to give them gifts. So I asked my mom and girlfriend to meet up and take it to her. My aunt also came along and they had a lunch together. My girlfriend said she was awkward and thought they weren't that interested in her. I said it's normal, and I told her they're old and they won't vibe with you anyways. Now, my girlfriend is very independent, as she has been living alone due to family conflict and her mother passing away so soon. She shared to me how her dad's mom was too controlling over his relationship too, and said mean things to her mom. My girlfriend doesn't want to be in a relationship like that involves my mom wanting to know everything that we do and trying to tell me what's right or wrong, and that I listen to everything she says even though she's wrong. She heard my mom say things that she didn't want to hear when we argued about meeting family on the 13th, and she told me that my mom is being too controlling over our relationship. And I agree, but I have no problems with either meeting my family or her friends. It was just hard to decide overall. I chose the side of my girlfriend, but at the same time, I can't help but feel guilty for choosing either or. There will always be another time where I would see my relatives because they would always be there. So how do I explain to everyone that this is the right thing to do for me and my girlfriend, and that we're not being selfish? Because I don't want both my family and girlfriend to keep thinking negatively about each other. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with you wanting to spend time with your long-distance girlfriend on this trip. Like, you've never actually met her and you've been together for 21 months. Like, this moment is a big deal, and if I was in your shoes, I would want to spend as much time with her as well. So I think you made the right choice of saying, no, let's spend time together and like do stuff together as a couple. And if your mom and extended family doesn't like that, then they're just gonna have to live with that. This is a rare occasion of getting to see your girlfriend in person. And I completely agree with you. I think it would be a bad idea to let this opportunity turn into some family reunion. Also, you do know you don't have to tell your mom about everything you do, right? Like, you are an adult. If you want to go fly somewhere, you don't need to tell her about it. Maybe for the sake of safety, it's probably okay. But if you have all your ducks in a row, you can't just go and do stuff. And with that in mind, you don't have to like ask permission to go flying either. You are an adult and you have your own money. Like, you're living almost as if you're still a teenager under their house. And maybe you do still live with them or something like that. But even then, in my opinion, you don't have to ask permission to do anything. You can just go do it and they can find out either after the fact, or for the sake of like convenience, you could just tell them if you want to. But not with the guise of being like, ooh, am I allowed to do this? Because in the end, you most definitely are allowed. But I think it would also be very valuable to see what your girlfriend is picking up, because I kind of have to agree with her. It really does seem like your mom plays a big role in your life and like in your decision-making process, and I think it's time to maybe grow out of that. Like, you don't need to tell her every aspect of what you're doing, because pretty soon your plans are going to change like overnight. Like, if it was up to your mom and your aunt, you would have seen all these family members and barely spent any time with your girlfriend. It's like you almost lost sight of the entire trip altogether because you involved your family in something that was really a private matter. So I think your girlfriend has a point, and I think she is kind of right that your family is a little too controlling over your relationship. Because in my opinion, this was not about picking sides, and it really should have been obvious that you should have prioritized your girlfriend over seeing extended family members on this specific trip. Would I be the jerk if I blatantly told my roommate that she is eating way too much, costing our house hundreds of dollars in groceries every single month, and causing a massive financial burden on my back? Because at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this is a throwaway account because I don't want my roommate seeing this. There are several points of frustration that I could go on about, but this one is the most contentious by far. For the sake of not writing too too much, I'm only going to focus on this one. My roommate has been living with my family for almost a year now. They have Social Security income, so they do not work and are subsequently at home all of the time. There are 3 adults and 1 child in the house, and my roommate eats more than the other 3 of us combined. It's getting ridiculously expensive to keep food in the house, and the rise in the cost of food combined with the sheer amount of food being eaten daily is making it unfeasible for me to keep up with financially. I have already tried talking to my roommate about the cost increase of our grocery bill, but again, they're on a fixed income, so they can only afford to pitch in maybe $200 a month. The problem is that between the $200 that they put in and my budget of $500, there is still not enough to keep food in the house for a month. I always end up going over budget. I've had to label certain foods that are for the child so that my roommate doesn't eat all of it because they have in the past. I've also come home from work countless times to only be disappointed that there are no leftovers or snacks for me. I get home late at night, so cooking a whole meal isn't reasonable. Not to mention that I'm already tired from working 10 hours and I don't want to do that. So I'm really considering having another conversation with my roommate, but just be more blatantly this time about the food situation. I don't know what else to do at this point, and I don't want to be accusatory, but I can't afford this anymore. I feel like I have to come out and say that you're eating too much and it's a financial burden on all of us, just for her to get this message. What should I do? Okay, it's really weird to me that you have like a communal grocery list going on, or that you all pitch in for like groceries in the house all together. Like, why are you not buying separate groceries and saying, okay, these are mine and those are yours. You can eat whatever you want, but stay away from my food. Like, why is that not the setup that's currently going on for your roommate? Because right now it seems like she's giving you all this money and then she just eats everything. And maybe she feels some kind of ownership over all the groceries because she's pitching in money to pay for the groceries. But I'm honestly not sure why you're doing it this way in the first place. Like, it really seems counterintuitive and I just don't see how this benefits you in any kind of way. So having a conversation probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but maybe frame it in such a way where you're like, hey, the rising cost of everything is making it hard. I can't do the shared grocery thing anymore, so you're gonna have to figure something else out. And from there on out, keep things separate. That way the expectations are set all together, and you can know for a fact that starting today, your roommate is responsible for their food and you are responsible for yours. Because what's happening right now sounds absolutely insane, as I really think that there's no reason for you to be spending all that money. Am I the jerk for describing my mom's second marriage and her younger kids as her do-over family? Because I never got any of the love and kindness she is now showing to my step-siblings. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female and I lost my dad when I was 5 years old. My parents were married, but I remember my dad being more present in my early memories than mom. And when my dad died, I knew my mom wasn't there for me. She left me to raise myself, or she roped in some extended family to take care of me, usually my grandparents. But she wouldn't always do that, and I was sort of forced to become independent and more mature in some ways to raise myself. Like, I had to make sure I ate, did my homework, and got to school on time, all without my mom helping me. The most she would do is make some food, but she wouldn't even tell me that she had done that. I usually had to search the fridge to find it. My grandparents were the ones who celebrated my birthdays with me, and they were the ones who typically went to my school for parent conferences. My mom just doesn't know me. She couldn't tell you what classes I take in high school, what my favorite food or color is, who my friends and best friends are, literally nothing. Fast forward, and 5 years ago, she met her husband Sam, and pretty quickly, like before, they were living together, and my mom ended up getting pregnant. So Sam moved in and my mom married him. She had a daughter 4 years ago and her son followed along 2 years ago as well. And right away, I see the difference in how my mom is with them. She knows them, she loves them, she dedicates time to them, and she advocates for them. All the things I do not remember her ever doing for me. She eats with them and plays with them, and she takes her daughter to preschool every day and takes her for a treat afterwards. And it really just sucks to see. I didn't get a good mom, but I see that she had it in her to be a good mom and chose not to be. Sam isn't as good as my dad was though, but he's still better than my mom ever was to me. Last week, my mom asked me to babysit for her and Sam, and I said no. My mom was shocked and asked why I wouldn't babysit, and I told her that I had work and I had plans with friends. She then told me that she would have expected that I would want time with the kids, but I told her that I don't want time with her do-over family. She asked me what that meant, and I said Sam and the kids were her do-over family. She is a better mom to her younger kids, and she and Sam have created their own perfect little family with them and their kids. And she was never that for me. I told her I have zero interest in helping her out with a do-over family, and I pointed out out that it was the most she had said to me in years, because she normally doesn't talk to me or include me in anything, and the only reason she is speaking to me is because she wanted something. She looked at me and said, "How dare you say that about Sam and the kids?" And she told me I have an awful attitude, and she hopes the kids never pick up on how I feel about them and their dad. She told me they deserve better than being described that way, and she told me I had some nerve to be jealous that her kids have a happy family life. But I just laughed and told her that she only cared about them, and that was pretty clear. And then to top it all off, she called me a nasty little jerk. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it's pretty clear that your mom feels guilty about the way she treated you. Like, she clearly was an absent mother and she just didn't care. But it's only once Sam comes along and they have some kids that she finally gets things together and somehow turns into this wonderful mother. And in that regard, I don't blame you for being upset. If I was in your shoes, I'd be upset as well. Like, where was this mom when you were growing up? Because you spent a childhood basically taking care of yourself. Like, you didn't have anybody except for your grandparents to help you out. Like, that is such an awful way to live, and I'm just so sorry you had to deal with that. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I think the feelings are really raw and very exposed right now, and if your mom seriously doesn't understand that, then that is definitely her problem and not yours. An entitled Karen loses her mind at a clearance sale as this store that's closing down doesn't have the product for the $3 hand cream that she's desperately searching for. As a result, this entitled Karen even got kicked out as she started screaming at everybody in the store, all because she wasn't getting what she wanted. And I'm seriously still blown away by her attitude. Here's what happened. A popular cosmetics store is closing in my country. I went in yesterday after hearing of the closure to stock up on some hypoallergenic items, not knowing that they were already running their clear out sale, making everything 75% off. And to say the store was picked over was an understatement. I mean, it was nearly empty. I was lucky that they still had an inventory on exactly what I wanted. When I got to the front of a very long queue, a wild Karen appears out of nowhere, cutting in front of the line that had no less than 10 people deep. She demands that they look in the back for a rose-scented hand cream that she was unable to find on the sales floor. The woman at the counter assured her that all the inventory they had was out on the floor, and that if she was unable to find the item, then they were probably sold out of it. A normal person, by the way, would accept that a store with mostly empty shelves probably does not have the inventory to fill those shelves. But not this Karen. She understood the words "we don't have it" to be the start of the conversation. The associate called out next, and as I approached the counter, Karen held out her arm to block me and said, "I'm not done yet." Karen is insistent that they find her item and will not take no for an answer. She continues to badger the employee, pulling out winning lines such as, "It's the only item I can use. You had it yesterday. I've been a customer for years. I mean, this is the third store I've been to." And then the employee with each statement just reiterates that what you see is what we have. Still not satisfied though, the Karen of course asked for a manager, refusing to move until the manager appeared. At this point, I decided to speak up. I said to her, "Could you please step aside while you wait so the line can progress?" But this question was met with her rudely telling me to mind my own effing business. Now, I've done my time in retail, and I live for the moment that somebody pulls out the F-bomb. And I'm sure that the associate, having had enough themselves, was also happy to ask at this point that she leave the store immediately for being rude to other customers. Unfortunately though, a Karen only has one mode, and that is to escalate. I have now committed the cardinal sin of making a reasonable request of a Karen, and have inadvertently made myself a target as well. She then turns back to me and starts yelling. She says, "See what you've done? I'm just trying to get some help here. Now they're throwing me out because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. If this was somebody in trouble, you would probably mind your own business, but no, you have to be a jerk because I'm just trying to get some service." A few of the customers in line join in calling her a Karen and noting that she was in fact the one who was unable to keep her mouth shut. Well, this only encouraged her to champion for her right to rose-scented hand cream. She then began to berate every customer who dared question her approach to the situation. Everybody is a jerk, everybody needs to shut up, and we just didn't understand customer service. Finally, the manager appears with a full bin of reaming hand cream. They had no less than 5 other varieties, but just no rose-scented ones that this idiot was looking for. The manager is offering an alternative from what limited stock they had in a futile attempt to de-escalate. However, Karens just don't understand de-escalation. I mean, this lady is already shaking mad over $3 hand cream and proceeds to call the manager stupid for not understanding rose, and then helpfully spells out the word. The manager then says, "Well, we're out of stock," noting that she had offered alternatives and that if none are suitable, then there is no further assistance that can be provided. She tucks the bin under the counter and then says to the Karen, if there is nothing else that we can help you with today, then you need to leave before we're forced to make you leave. Finally, accepting defeat, this entitled Karen leaves the store, but not before knocking several products off a display table on her way out. Now, I use their hand cream and it's pretty good. I prefer the vanilla scented, as the rose scent smells almost as awful as this Karen's attitude. Yeah, I can't understand why anybody would act like that in public. Like, the secondhand cringe and embarrassment that I would feel if I saw this in person would be literally off the charts. How can anybody actually act like this in public and not feel any shame? Like, you're not ashamed that you're acting this way at all in public in front of other people? I just can't imagine being that far detached from reality to act like this and not feel like some kind of regret later on or like in the moment. So I think the original poster and the manager handled this really well, and I think that Karen should have been kicked out a lot sooner than that, because her behavior and the way she was acting was so uncalled for, and no one in that store deserved to be treated like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to stay at my boyfriend's hotel on my girls' trip? Because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. So I need to start off with a little bit of backstory just to give some context. So me and my girlfriends are planning to go to London at the end of April because one of the girls has a birthday, and for that case we decided to go to London since she always wanted to go there. We have been planning this trip since December of 2023, and I made sure to inform my boyfriend of the trip and he said it was fine. I even informed him that we might stay at a friend's place since hotels in London are a bit pricey, or we might just stay at a hotel, but it all depends on how we feel. Well, fast forward to this month, and me and my friends were on FaceTime trying to decide which hotel to reserve for the trip, and we decided on the hotel, but we were still considering staying at a friend's place still. I told my boyfriend all of this, and that's when he told me that he was also going to London with a friend of his, but he doesn't want to sleep in the same hotel room as his friend, which I fully understood, and he went ahead and asked me to reserve a hotel room for him as well, and I accepted, but I reminded him that me and the girls weren't sure if we're going to stay in a hotel, and just like I mentioned, they are pricey, and we are traveling on a budget, so staying at a friend's place is going to save us a lot of money, but we reserved a hotel just in case of anything. I then asked him which dates he was going to London, and he mentioned the same dates as me, but I just didn't think anything of it because it was just such a coincidence. He then told me that he wants me to stay with him at his hotel during my girls' trip since we are a couple, which I understand, but like I mentioned from the start, this is a trip that I planned with my girl since December, and it would be rude of me to tell them, hey, I'm going to stay with my boyfriend at his hotel during our trip, even though we planned everything together. But he said that during the day I could go and hang out with my friends, and then at night I could go to his hotel to sleep, and he thinks it doesn't make any sense for us as a couple to fly out in the same city and not stay at the same place. Well, I said no because he was not part of my plan since the beginning, and I can't just start changing everything just because he feels like he wants to go to London on those exact dates. So honestly, am I the jerk for turning him down? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think it's a really big red flag that your boyfriend is suddenly going on this trip with you. Like, this guy is acting like you both planned this together and that's why you need to stay in the hotel with him, but it's like, seriously, you weren't even invited on this. It's almost like he invited himself for some like weird reason. And also, like, why would he go to this trip all of a sudden? Does he just like not trust you or something like that? And now he's trying to force you to stay in the hotel with him? Like, that's just really weird. And I know if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't want to stay at his hotel either. Like, you planned this with your girlfriends literally a year ago. You have everything plotted out and planned exactly the way you guys want to do it, and then suddenly here comes your boyfriend out of nowhere, by the way, just to tag along on a trip that you're going on with your girlfriends. Like, come on, what's going on right now? So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for refusing to stay with your boyfriend. I think under normal circumstances where you guys like planned a vacation, this would be much different and understandable if you did stay with him. But in the meantime, I find this behavior really weird because it really seems like he's trying to ruin your plans. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she was being very obvious when trying to hide the fact that she was pregnant? Because right now she's trying to blame me for everybody finding out. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister is currently 3 months pregnant with twins, and she's already begun to develop a bump. Right now, she's only told myself, our parents, and our brother, as well as giving myself and our brother permission to tell our spouses. And we have all agreed to keep it a secret until she's ready. Well, the issue is that she's become very obvious about it, to the point where she's doing near comical things to hide it when we're around family, which has been very frequent as of late. I mean, picture the stuff that people do in sitcoms when the characters aren't pregnant but the actor is. She will cover her stomach with her purse, holding her oldest daughter in front of the bump, wearing much baggier clothes when she's typically the type to wear things that show off her figure, stuff like that. My sister's always been very fit as she is a gym rat. The bump itself doesn't even look like extra fat or anything like that, but rather it just looks like a very pronounced baby bump. If ever she has to move something from her stomach, she is very quick to hide it. So obviously many have caught on, but for the most part they all were good sports. No one ever directly asked us, but they would make hints, and I would never entertain them at all. We all gathered on Sunday for a family dinner, and my sister was holding her 2-year-old for a bit. When the little one wanted to go play, Amber then tried to cover herself with a blanket. My 30-year-old cousin then chimed in and said, "Alright, cut the dramatics. We all know what's going on." A few instantly reprimanded my cousin, while my sister turned bright red. She refused to say anything in the moment, though later quietly confirmed to our aunt, telling her to spread it around. My sister is now very upset. I agree that our cousin was obnoxious and shouldn't have said anything, but I've also tried to be supportive and comforting. However, my sister keeps saying, "I just don't know how they figured it out." And eventually, after hearing this over and over again, I finally said, "Sweetie, you really weren't trying hard. I respect why you wanted to wait, but by this point, it was quite obvious." Well, she got mad and tried to insist that it wasn't obvious. I said it absolutely was, and she didn't help matters by acting like she was in a sitcom. I stressed that our cousin was in the wrong, but she was also not quite as stealthy as she thought she was. Now, I was not saying that she should have done more to hide it, and I also don't think that she was wrong to hide it. But what I am saying is that the sentiment of, "Oh, I don't know how they figured it out," doesn't really work when she was being so obvious. Well, now she's mad at me and says I'm victim blaming, but I said I'm absolutely not. No one should have said anything. But she was being very obvious, and she really shouldn't pretend otherwise. So I really need to know if I was the jerk here, because at this point, I'm seriously not sure. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your sister was being weird, and she's trying to claim that she's a victim of some kind. Like, no, this isn't victim blaming. What is she talking about? She's not a victim just because she got called out by her cousin for hiding her baby bump in such a dramatic way. Like, she was very clearly making it obvious that she was hiding something, so for her to suddenly act surprised like, "Oh my god, how did this happen? How did anybody figure out this mystery?" is not only hilariously naive, but also it's just really dumb, because seriously, you didn't do a good job of like not convincing people that you're pregnant. And you know what? I'm right there with everybody else. The fact that the cousin called her out at dinner was completely inappropriate. Like, that's a private conversation to be had on the side, because clearly your sister was not ready to share this with anybody. So I can understand where she's coming from in that regard, where she's probably like really embarrassed, and she probably feels really stupid for hiding it and thinking that she's hiding it in some kind of way, but like literally she should have known that she was being super obvious. So in my opinion, this is not your fault. You're not victim blaming because your sister is not a victim, and in my opinion, she's probably way more embarrassed than anything else. And that honestly is kind of her own fault, especially with how badly she was trying to hide the fact that she was pregnant. My entitled, stupid boss demands that we work overtime hours with literally zero work to do at the end of the day. So I decide to maliciously comply, resulting in him never asking me to stay late ever again. Here's what happened. So this happened a while back, but the memory still brings a smile to my face whenever I think about it. I used to work for a company where the boss had this habit of demanding that we stay late, even when there was absolutely no work left to be done in the office. It was one of those toxic environments where productivity was measured by hours you spent at your desk rather than the actual output of your work. One day, after wrapping up all my tasks well before the end of the day, my boss came over and told me that I needed to stay late because that's just how things are done around here. Mind you, there was literally nothing left for me to do. Now, instead of arguing or trying to reason with him, I decided to play along with his ridiculous demand for overtime pay. So I nodded, I grabbed a book I had been meaning to read, and settled back into the chair. For the next 2 hours, I sat at my desk, flipping through pages, occasionally pretending to jot down notes and looking as busy as possible. At the end of those 2 hours, my boss came by to check on me, expecting to see me toiling away at some imaginary task, but instead he found me reading a novel. He looked at me puzzled and asked, "What are you doing?" With a straight face, I replied, "Well, you asked me to stay late, so I figured I might as well put in some overtime." This book has been on my reading list for quite a while. Needless to say, my boss was speechless. He couldn't really argue with me since he asked me to stay late and I was technically still on the clock. Well, from that day forward, he never asked me to stay late unless there was actual work that needed to be done, marking this as one of the few instances where malicious compliance was actually working at its finest. Yeah, that boss is really stupid for trying to make you stay late, because I am right there with the original poster. If there's no work to be done and you've done everything you need to do for the day, then there really is no point for you to stick around and have to work more just to make this guy happy. Like, at that point, it's just a massive waste of money for everybody involved, and it's a waste of time. Like, if they really want to pay me for staying late and actually doing work, then fantastic, let's get that done. But to make me sit there just for the sake of sitting there, and this is all probably for some secret agenda that your manager's trying to work towards, is just so cumbersome and weird, and it just doesn't help anybody in the long run. So honestly, I'm kind of sad that you got caught, because you could have gotten in some serious reading time on the clock. Because if this manager was really so stupid as to allow you to commit time theft, and with overtime hours at that, then it would have been great for you to capitalize on that for as long as possible. Today, I had my first worst day that I've ever had while working at this restaurant, and it honestly got so bad that it made me cry in front of my coworkers. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I've been a hostess at this restaurant for about 4 months now, and today was my first real serving day after 5 days of training. It was going great at first. We had some very sweet customers, but then I got sat 2 women who I could tell already were not happy. I was still able to keep up with my tables until the 2 women started complaining that their appetizer was cold. They also wanted a different one instead, and they wanted to add food. I had just gotten sat again, so it was starting to stress me out, and I began making some mistakes. Well, long story short, I forgot to shake up their margarita, so they assumed it was wrong, and that's my fault. And I forgot to tell them if they got 2 sides, one of the regular sides with their food would be replaced. So they had ordered 3 sides each, and only 2 came out. The first woman got incredibly upset and asked for a manager. She apparently talked a ton of garbage about me, so much so that my coworkers brought it up to me. As I was walking in the back, I heard my manager say, I mean, bless her heart. And she was saying this to my coworker about me, so she must know that I'm doing badly. The main woman didn't end up tipping, which is fine, but the second one did tip about 22% and decided to write me a note. She said to me, don't be so stressed, you will do great, which immediately made me cry. So I'm sobbing as I'm still trying to take orders out, but my coworkers were so sweet and they kept trying to help, which made it impossible for me to stop crying because I felt so bad that they had to pick up my slack. I usually am not emotional. I mean, I haven't cried in months. So of course, it's in front of the people I have to see every single day. One of them even stayed behind to help me with my first closing, which added to the guilt that I felt. I caused them all to be behind because of me, and I'm sure my other tables suffered as well because I couldn't stay calm. It wasn't the worst day ever. I mean, it definitely could have been a lot worse, but I just feel like I'm horrible at my job. I just expected my day to have gone better, and crying in front of people that I'm not close with didn't help. It wasn't even like I got a crazy amount of customers. I had 3 table sections in total, and the most amount of people that I had sat at a table was maybe 4. So there wasn't even a good reason for me to be so stressed out. But I'm honestly so embarrassed that I cried in front of my coworkers that I now seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you. If I had $1 for every time I walked away from work stressed or wanting to cry, especially when I was working in the restaurant industry, then trust me, I would be very rich. I don't care what anybody says, that line of work is incredibly stressful. Working in customer service, especially in the restaurant industry, is so stressful. There is so much that can go wrong so quickly. It is high pace, and chances are you're not going to be paid well. There are some exceptions to that rule, but honestly, the amount of work you put into that job doesn't always add up to a really good paycheck. If anything, it just adds up to you being stressed out of your mind. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would cut yourself some slack, especially when this is your first test in becoming a server. Like, you're gonna have those customers that come in and treat you like garbage, but I know whenever that happened to me, I would just remind myself that those people do not define my existence. They're just some miserable person who came in and decided to try and make you miserable. And you shouldn't let that define your work as a server, because at the end of the day, I'm sure you did just fine with every other table that you've ever served. And if you stick with it, I guarantee you these incidents will become much less in the future. My parents won't take ownership over their mistreatment of my wife. And after dealing with this for so long, I feel like I'm now at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I are in our 40s and we've been married for 20 years. We have one early teen son, and we recently moved back to my hometown about 2 miles from my parents. My wife has basically tolerated their behavior for years. They just seem to not like her at all. They interrupt when she speaks, they argue about small things that she says, they make comments about her under their breath, and manipulate to see their grandson. I've admittedly done a horrible job at standing up for her and confronting them, and instead, I just put my head in the sand. And that bad strategy is coming back to bite me now that they live nearby. Last Thanksgiving, my mom told my wife not to bother making food, because apparently nobody in her family likes what she makes, insinuating that my wife is not part of the family. My wife then did not come to any holidays, and my mom left on a 2-month vacation without resolving it, and now does nothing more but deflect and excuse her behavior. Instead of apologizing, she will send my wife occasional text messages saying that we need to talk, and then she'll get mad when my wife doesn't respond. At the same time, I realized how unhappy my wife was, and how I actually treat her in some of the same ways, all because of what was modeled for me. We were near divorce until I thankfully recognized this with the help of a therapist. I've changed a ton in a year, and have done the hard work of reconciling with my wife, who has been very forgiving and very gracious. But my parents still treat her the same way and just can't see it. They just think she is too sensitive, and the only person who has ever complained about the way we treat them, and that this is some mutual conflict that they should both apologize for. My mom even pulled out the old saying that the Bible says to forgive and forget, which is an old chestnut that she did last week. My mom asked to see our son every day via text message, and wants me to spend time with her and my dad like we used to, just as if nothing is wrong. I've tried confronting them and explaining the situation many times, but I have serious doubts about their desire or capacity to change. My mom last time was just like, well, I saw a counselor once who told me to text her, and she's the one that's not texting back. I could easily explain to my mom what she's doing wrong, and give her the exact script and a plan to actually apologize and repair, but that seems inauthentic and won't lead to lasting change. It's not my job to parent her, but we can't go on like this. I'm basically avoiding and ignoring them until I figure out what our relationship needs to look like, but I know that's not super mature or helpful. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, if you really want to help out your wife, you can start by standing up for her. Like, why are you tolerating any of this behavior? If you actually changed and you're like a better husband, then you would be going to your parents and saying, hey, we're not coming over till you treat my wife right. Like, why are you not putting your foot down to be like, no, enough is enough, you're not talking to my wife like that? If this means burning bridges with your parents, in my eyes, if I was in your shoes, it would be worth it. Like, you've been with your wife for 20 years. How does she not take priority in your life? So in my opinion, I think you're being way too lazy when it comes to defending your wife, and if I was in your shoes, I would be stepping up to say something much sooner than later. An entitled crazy driver thinks he can plow his way through a construction zone, nearly driving past me as well as everybody else sitting at a stoplight, claiming that he's trying to get away from the cartel. And I've honestly never been more afraid of an interaction with a crazy person in my life. Here's what happened. So the other day I was driving down a certain road in the Bay Area where I live, and a good portion of it is a two-way road with one lane in one direction and the other lane in the opposite direction. There are double yellow lines down the middle of the road, which they've reinforced with reflective pavement markers and rumble strips. And in case you don't know, rumble strips are the grooves in the road which make a noise if your tire passes over them, and they're there to let you know that you're drifting over the yellow lines. So the message is clear: absolutely no passing other vehicles by crossing the lines. The only time you may do so is if you're specifically directed to do so by an officer, a flagger, or a sign. And this detail will be important later on. Currently, there's a major construction project that will take multiple years to complete. They started about a year ago, and they anticipate that it will be finished in 2025. This project has necessitated blocking off one of the lanes with cones, as well as reflective delineators and signs clearly indicating the line is closed. There are temporary rumble strips in the lane letting you know that you're entering a construction site, with signs that state you need to reduce your speed to 25 miles an hour. As a side note, this road is notorious for people wanting to drive fast, so they basically need other signs to let you know that you're entering and exiting a construction zone. Now, to save trouble of having a flagger on site, they've set up a temporary traffic light with a sign nearby saying that the wait time before it turns green will be about 6 minutes. There's also a white line indicating that you're supposed to stop. When I get to the light, I often just shift into park because I know it's going to be a while. Because one of the lanes is blocked off, when you're in that lane and you reach the part that's blocked off, you may cross over, but only when the light turns green. There's a sign directing you to cross over to the other lane, and another sign directing you to go back once you're past the construction zone. Now, I'm sharing all these details because I don't see how they could possibly make it any more clear that this is a construction construction zone other than having cops on site in addition to construction workers. So with that bit of context out of the way, this is where our crazy driver enters the fray, and boy do they make an incredible first impression. So I was in the lane which is blocked off and there's one car ahead of me. We get to the light, we stop, and we wait for it to turn green. Well, suddenly this guy in a Mazda SUV comes driving down the road, sees a bunch of cars stopped, and is like, no biggie, I'll just cross the double yellow lines and pass everybody. So he gets into the lane going in the opposite direction, passes all of us, and then, once he sees that we're all stopped and there's a construction zone and a traffic light, he tries to get back into the right lane. Only he can't now because the car in front of me is stopped behind the line. There is quite literally no room for him to squeeze past us and get back into the right lane without driving into the part of the lane that's blocked off. So he wedges his way in as best as he can, but now he's past the white line that you must stop behind, as well as the traffic light, so he isn't able to see when it changes. Obviously, we're all honking our horns as a means of asking, what in the world are you doing? So as a result, he gets out of his SUV. He's a middle-aged white guy, and I'm guessing probably in his late 50s. He then starts spewing all this garbage about how he's trying to get away from the cartel and how he's gonna drive like crazy in order to do so. He also mentioned some garbage about having to get to the doctor. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it went from feeling like the guy was an entitled jerk to actually being kind of scared. We were all like, dude, you're gonna like hurt someone if you do that. And he responded that he was the one who was going to get hurt due to the cartel supposedly being after him. He then asked when he could go, and we told him when the light turned green. Now remember, he's not able to see the light because he's past the line where you have to stop. The woman in front of me gets back into her car and moves back a few feet, and I do the same in order to give the guy enough room to back in enough so he can see what color the light is. Now I was very afraid that he was going to hurt somebody due to him saying that he's gonna drive like crazy in order to escape whoever supposedly was after him, not to mention him trying to get to the doctor. Eventually the light turned green and we carefully made our way onto the opposite lane past all the construction and then got back into the right lane. I was still really afraid he was going to do what he said he was gonna do, as he was going pretty fast. Luckily he wound up behind another SUV driver who was actually going the speed limit, and thankfully he stayed in the lane and didn't pass him. And in my opinion, people like this absolutely shouldn't be on the road. Yeah, that's a crazy situation. Like the second he stepped out of his car after people were honking at him, that's like the immediate first red flag where I'm like, wait a second, this seems really sketchy. And also, like, based on all the signs that you described, why on earth could this guy not like infer that, yeah, this is a construction site and I need to wait my turn at the obvious stoplight? Like seriously, there's no good excuse for this guy. But hey, maybe he really was on the run from the cartel. And if that really is true, even though I think that's a complete lie, then this guy has clearly been running with the wrong group of people. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I recently got fired from my hosting job as my managers were claiming that I was being too inconsistent. And now that I have a new job, I'm stressed out of my mind that I'm just gonna get fired again. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I worked at this place for 6 months, and the day before I got fired, I was in a heated argument with my boyfriend and was already 15 minutes late to work. It was my first time ever being late, and my one mistake was that I didn't call one of my managers to tell her that I was going to be late. I was too in my head to think about anything other than getting to work and the argument. Then I got into a car accident on my way there. I ended up being 30 minutes late to work. I was crying, I was shaking, and I was terrified because my father was behaving erratically after dropping me off. I told one of the managers what happened, and she told me to go home because I was in no condition to work and to not worry about it. Well, the next day, I received a text from my general manager that he is letting me go due to too many inconsistencies during my shifts. Mind you, I got confirmation from my coworkers that both managers were complaining on how bad I was at my job. I mean, they complained about everything all day, specifically the salary manager. She would nitpick the littlest things, even though I have little interactions with customers. And again, mind you, I also worked as a busser and would help bussers take plates in and wipe tables, and they heavily appreciated my work. I did my best to stay at the host stand, but I couldn't just watch the bussers drown by themselves, and then management, other hosts, and even servers would complain at them when they do a lot of heavy and time-consuming work. I would also pre-bus for the servers when it got busy. I also voluntarily cleaned off the floors of the front house. Now, I love cleaning and I hate seeing cheese and other crumbs on the floor, and a lot of servers thank me since it's mainly servers cleaning front of house and they leave late. I never got complaints from servers other than a rare and occasional gentle reminder that they would like to be next sat, and depending on how many tables each server had, I would go by whoever needs tables the most and try to keep it even. I think I did exceedingly over the bare minimum because the bare minimum that you have to do is stand at the host stand all day and greet customers and then sit them down. Then when the shift ends, you wipe windows and menus and clean the floor of your section. Some hosts don't even sanitize the menus, and when I'm given greasy menus, I'm absolutely horrified. I brush it off, but I was praised by servers and bussers for doing my job exceedingly well. If I'm being honest about how I seat people, it can be bad when it's packed, and we have a bit of reservations with parties of 8 or more, only because we're a very tiny restaurant, but we are a popular one. I mean, it is just messing with my head how management complains when all I do is mind my business and help everyone as best as I can. Like all I wanted was to help in any way, shape, or form that I can. Now, I was immediately offered a serving job at a sushi place across from my old work, and this is all after talking with their manager. And trust me, my anxiety is spiked so high because I don't want to go through what I went through this week. Also, I never release my shifts, and if the other hosts ever needed to be covered, then I would happily cover for them. I'm honestly so scared that management will all hate me and I'll just be fired again. I'm honestly so stressed out, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it does not sound like you did anything wrong. If anything, it sounds like you did way more than you needed to at your previous job. Like, these people clearly did not appreciate your hard work, and they very obviously took advantage of your kindness by basically allowing you to do everybody else's job. And you know what? With this new job, I would just consider it exactly that. This is a new job and a new opportunity for you to try again, because it sounds like your previous managers were absolutely incompetent, and they were really rude and clearly did not appreciate you. And I think it would be in your best interest to have a clean attitude and like a fresh perspective going into this new job, because I'm sure even if these people are normal people, they will be way better than what you used to deal with. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for considering removing my sister from my life? Because after 6 years, she is still talking about her ex-boyfriend and how badly the breakup went between the two of them. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so 6 years ago, my younger sister went through a painful breakup with her long-term boyfriend. Since then, she's been using that breakup as a crutch to explain away every negative emotion that she experiences. And her fixation on the past has taken a toll on our relationship. My younger sister's breakup hit her hard, and I was there for her every step of the way. I listened to her vent, I wiped away her tears, and offered whatever support that I could. But instead of healing and moving on, my sister has clung to her past relationship as an excuse for her unhappiness. Nowadays, it seems like every time my sister's in a bad mood or feeling down, she just blames it on her breakup. She snaps at me over the smallest things, accusing me of not understanding her pain or reminding her too much of her ex-boyfriend. It's unfair to me, but my sister just can't seem to let go of the past. Even when things are going well in her life, my sister finds a way to tie it back to her breakup. She's become obsessed with her ex, stalking his social media profiles, and driving herself crazy with jealousy over his new relationships. But what really takes the cake is my sister's behavior towards my husband. She's convinced that he reminds her too much of her ex-boyfriend, and she's demanded that he not attend family gatherings. It's absurd and hurtful, not only to me, but to my husband as well. I am beyond angry at my sister for her selfishness and inability to move on from a breakup that literally happened 6 years ago. Her obsession is driving a wedge between us and causing unnecessary drama within our family. So honestly, am I the jerk for considering removing her from my life? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, it has been 6 years and she is still holding on to this? My God, this is not healthy. No, you are definitely not the jerk for putting distance between you and your sister, because your sister is not being rational. Like, here's the thing, she needs to take time to like fix herself first instead of taking that out on everybody else. And honestly, the final straw for me would have been her talking about your husband like that. Like, that is unbelievably toxic, and that is not okay. Everything else for me, I can kind of excuse and be like, okay, whatever. But the fact that she targeted your husband and went after him and is seriously trying to be like, you can't come to family gatherings, you remind me of my ex-boyfriend. Like, that's crazy talk, and that is not a rational person. And I get it. I would be insanely angry if someone said that about my significant other. Like, just because somebody looks like someone that you don't like doesn't mean they are that person. Like, that's crazy talk. talk. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is so far out of line, it's not even funny. And I don't blame you for wanting to get away from her sooner than later. Am I the jerk for being unhappy at my job as I work for my older cousin who is awful at her job and is constantly forgetting things left and right? Because right now I am seriously unhappy. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I started working for my cousin as a receptionist for her business. And for the sake of keeping this anonymous, I won't explain exactly what it is. My initial job was just to answer phones and make appointments, and my pay reflected just that. As time went on, she began piling more and more on my plate, expecting me to be able to do things that keep her business afloat, but still not giving me the power to make any decisions. This wouldn't be a huge issue if she wasn't always out of the office and ignoring my calls and messages. My cousin claims to have poor memory, and so I will have to remind her dozens of times to meet with potential clients and to work up rough drafts for jobs. People will pay a consultation fee and then have to wait weeks for her to remember to actually begin the work. Unfortunately for me, being the receptionist, I'm the one having to handle the irate clients who will no longer make deadlines. As expected, her business has slowed significantly, and she seems to believe it is my fault. She has begun leaving passive-aggressive notes to make sure I'm taking calls and petty checklists for me to mark off daily. She has also decided that since we aren't that busy, I should be deep cleaning the office daily to earn my pay. I've mentioned leaving and finding a new job since we're not that busy, and I don't have class over the summer, but she said she wants me to stay working with her and that she needs my help. My mom also said that she's family, and I can't leave her in a bind when she's struggling like this. Recently, however, instead of one page with multiple notes, she has begun to write them individually and then places some in my area and some in hers. She then will berate me if I miss a single one, especially if it involves a client or a job. I'd always ask her to please put them all on my desk, and she would make comments about me wanting her to do my job for me. So last week I had enough, and anytime she started on her tirade, instead of trying to defend myself, I'd stare blankly at her and ask if she had started this job or called this client yet, even though I knew that she hadn't. And every time it had the desired effect, and she would leave without finishing the conversation. This has apparently upset her a lot, because she then started raging to her mother, who is my aunt, who then complained to my parents about it. My dad thinks it's hilarious, but my mom and aunt think that I should just stop, because I'm being petty when I know she's stressed out. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Okay, I've got to be honest with you, I don't know why you're even still working there. I personally don't care that this is your cousin, or anybody that you're related to at all. The fact that she's piling more stuff for you to do, and not letting your pay reflect that, in my opinion, is so toxic, and you don't need that. Not to mention the fact that she's clearly not appreciating the work you put in, and she just completely mistreats you in the workspace. Also, the fact that your family's like, ooh, you can't put family in a bind, you have to help out family when they're in need. That, in my opinion, is just a cop-out for someone to continue to be awful to you. Like, you can't just use that as a license to then treat you like garbage whenever she wants. I don't care how stressed out she is. She's about to be more stressed out when you quit your job and go somewhere else. Also, she doesn't keep anything private. If she wants to sit there and pretend like she's your boss, then she should exercise some semblance of professionalism. I mean, the first thing she does whenever there's a conflict with you is go to her mom and start complaining about it. Like, that's really unprofessional, and it's seriously not okay. Like, your cousin is taking advantage of you, and your family is literally enabling her behavior. It's not your responsibility to keep her business afloat. That's on her. Like, she's not doing her job, and you are literally picking up the slack. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be finding a new job like tonight. I would not want to stay in a workplace like this and be expected to literally carry this business across the finish line every single day. Because honestly, that's exactly what's happening right now. And in my opinion, I don't think you deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for ditching my cousin and her family on a cruise? Also, we could avoid their obnoxious children who throw temper tantrums at the drop of a hat. Because right now, she is very angry with me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband and I decided to take our kids on a cruise for spring break. When my cousin heard about it, her and her husband decided to book the same one with their kids. So essentially, they kind of crashed our trip. We were very hesitant to go with them, but we couldn't exactly forbid them from going either. My cousins and I are actually super close. I mean, we grew up like sisters, and I try very hard to stay close with them. The issue is that our kids are very badly behaved. My kids can enjoy them in small doses, as can we, but trying to do more than a few hours at a time with them is difficult. She has a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old and a toddler. toddler. They throw long and loud tantrums until they do get their way. They also need 24/7 entertainment or they go crazy. If they're bored for even a minute, they start crying and complaining, and my cousin and her husband have to stop what they're doing and start entertaining them just to stop the tantrum. And obviously, this is 100% on the parents. We've never done a trip together like this, and we weren't sure how her kids could handle it, but we agreed to sit with them for dinner and do the same shows as them and all this other stuff. Now, if you've never been on a cruise, they seat you at the same table every night with the same people. Well, this proved to be a mistake after the first night. They were terrible at dinner. They drew on the walls with their crayons. They purposefully crumbled bread to make a mess. They used their knives to cut up straws and other things. They also kept running around and disturbing other tables. Their parents, of course, did nothing to stop them and instead just let them do whatever they want. Eventually, they got tired of that and started crying and screaming that they were bored and they wanted to go to the shops. They allowed them to throw a 5-minute screaming tantrum before their dad finally took them to the shops to buy some toys that they wanted. Then after dinner, we went to a show and they didn't enjoy the show and also whined loudly that they were bored. It was bad enough that we were asked to leave the show. Technically, my husband and I could have stayed with our kids, but we were just too embarrassed. My kids were upset and said they ruined the show for them. So my husband and I made the decision to ask for a different table for the rest of the trip and chose different activities to do. I told my cousin that we decided it would be best to separate at dinner and not do all activities together, but we could still hang out at the pool together and do a few activities together as well. Now, when I said that, she was pretty upset, and she said her kids got their feelings hurt that we abandoned them and that they weren't going to enjoy their trip anymore, being separated from their cousins, and she wouldn't even talk to us for the rest of the trip. We are back home now, and I got some calls from my grandparents asking why we ditched her and how we could do that to them. My sister said that we should have known this was going to happen and set the expectation for separate things ahead of time instead of dropping it on them during the cruise. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because I seriously am not sure what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Like, your cousin and her husband are terrible parents because they clearly enable this behavior left and right. Like, that is so obnoxious, it's not even funny. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Like, of course you plan to do all these things with them, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe they'll be good on this trip. Maybe because you're on a cruise and it's outside of their normal element, these spoiled kids won't act like absolute nightmares and ruin the trip for everybody. So that's why you made all these plans together. But clearly, that just isn't the case. Like, the parents just let these kids run around at dinner, and then they allow them to make all that noise during a show. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would be cutting ties with them during the cruise altogether. Not to mention the fact that they crashed your trip. I mean, if anything, this is just a lesson to anybody listening that if you have plans and you plan on going on a vacation, just keep a lid on it until like the day before or something like that. That way, people you don't want to be there can't show up all of a sudden. And you know what? The fact that your cousin's like, wow, you should have set expectations for us. You did this all of a sudden during the cruise and now we had to drop all our plans. But like, seriously, that argument goes the other way as well. Why would you drop your kids all of a sudden in this environment if you knew that they were going to misbehave? So no, you are definitely not the jerk because these people have no right to try and ruin your vacation. My entitled in-laws are demanding that we give up our home so that my sister-in-law and her family can move in after she got a divorce. And now, after we told them that we're not going to do that, they've started calling us greedy and selfish, claiming that we don't care about the kids and that we're going to be the reason that they end up homeless. And right now, I feel like I'm at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened 2 nights ago and I'm still feeling some type of way about it. For some background, my husband has a younger sister. This sister-in-law is currently going through a divorce with 4 children, and my husband and I also have 4 children. My husband and I live in a very quiet country back road in our own little town, us and his family being the only residents on the road. So, both his sisters and their families and his parents live within walking distance of our house. My husband and I have been married for 7 years and have 4 young children. My husband bought the land that we live on from his parents when he was 18 years old, and when we got married, we built a house on it. We designed our house with a big family in mind and designed it to be our forever home. And trust me when I say this, there has never been a thought to move or look elsewhere. Now, my sister-in-law is going through a divorce, and she is struggling to say the least. She was in a very toxic relationship with her ex, with her contributing just as much as he was, and he was the one who filed for divorce and moved out, leaving the 4 kids with her. Well, my mother-in-law called my husband 2 nights ago and asked if we could come over for a chat. We get get there and my in-laws and sister-in-law are sitting on the couch as if they were staging some kind of intervention. I mean, it was just really strange. My mother-in-law didn't beat around the bush at all. She explained how my sister-in-law's ex was getting the house in the divorce and they would be homeless within a month if we didn't give her our home. Now, when she said this, it honestly took me a second to comprehend what was even said because this was so far out of left field. But my husband didn't even need that second. He looked them dead in the eyes and said no. My in-laws started telling us things like, you guys don't need all that house. You guys can move into one of the new neighborhoods in town. I mean, you guys can just build a new house, right? And I seriously could not believe what I was hearing. I offered to open up our playroom and guest room to them until they could find somewhere to live. I mean, we have an air mattress and the guest room has a full bath, but that was just not good enough to them apparently. So that's when we got up and we just straight up left. As we were leaving, they began yelling after us, saying that we don't care about the children, how family helps family, and that we're being greedy and selfish. And I've got to say, I'm honestly so proud of how we reacted because my first instinct was to go off and say some hurtful things. But instead, we just went home to our house. We love my sister-in-law's kids and obviously we do not want them to be homeless, but they don't need my house at the expense of my own children and family. I don't see why my sister-in-law's family deserves my home. I mean, what about my kids? Now the in-laws are calling and texting, saying that we don't care about the kids, that we are selfish and greedy, and that we're making her homeless. And I'm wondering if maybe we were too quick to say no. So honestly, are we the jerks in this situation? What should we do? Wow, your in-laws and your sister-in-law are being incredibly entitled. They're seriously gonna look at you and be like, can you just move out, please? We need your home more than you do. And it's like, lady, what are you talking about? I have a family of my own. I've got kids of my own. Like seriously, why on earth should you give up your home just because your mother-in-law is demanding it? Why can't they give up their home? Like, why is this suddenly on your shoulders? And also, the fact that they're trying to frame this as if you're the reason they're gonna be homeless is so disgusting. You didn't cause them to lose the house. Their ex did that. If they want to be mad at anybody, be mad at them. Like, you didn't do a single thing in this scenario. So honestly, the way they're acting is insane, and you do not deserve this in the slightest, because I am sure there are some kind of options available in the world or the community that you're in that would allow them to find a place to live and move on with their lives. Because for them to just demand your house outright, in my opinion, is completely crazy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that if she doesn't like the living conditions of my place, then she should just go ahead and leave? Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, she's technically my stepsister, but we're basically sisters and I treat her like one. I'm a 29-year-old female and I live on a tiny farm off the grid in the middle of nowhere. The only livable building on the farm is a small trailer and there's no power. I mean, I have to use a generator just to do anything. On top of that, there is no plumbing. We have 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and their father isn't in the picture and won't be until the end of 2032. I'm fine with the lack of basic necessities as I live off the land and I don't need much in general. My kids are homeschooled and I plan to do so until middle school at least. Recently, my 33-year-old stepsister got divorced and evicted from her ex's place. She has 3 kids, 2 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old. She had nowhere to go, so I invited her to live with me. Not even a week had passed, and she started complaining about having to use the outhouse, as well as a lack of water, and the fact that the drinkable water had to be carried from another well in buckets. She also complained that we live far away from any civilization, with the nearest hospital being about 20 miles away, and if anything happens, there is a chance that we won't be able to get there on time. Her biggest complaint, though, was that I asked her to help around the farm with small chores, and that I asked one of her 5-year-olds to bring some water from the well, and I gave them a small bucket. I see nothing wrong with children doing age-appropriate tasks around the farm, and I was raised the same way until I was 12. So I told her that if she's dissatisfied with the way I live, then she is free to leave. I'm not locking her up to be my slave around the farm. I provided her with free housing and food. Well, she said that I'm trying to use her children for child labor and that I'm endangering her life. We had a nasty verbal fight that ended up with us exchanging some really unsavory words, and now she is still sulking. And right now, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're in the wrong here, and I really think your stepsister was kind of out of line. Like seriously, it's just a bucket, and it's not like you're asking for some weird child labor on the farm. You're literally just asking people to pull their weight. Like that is completely understandable understandable. So for your stepsister to freak out like that is so weird. Like, you're giving her free housing. Why would she not expect to have to do something just to kind of like make up for getting free housing altogether? And it's not like you're asking that much. Like, this really is minor in the long run. And you know what? You're absolutely right as well. If she doesn't like it here, then she can leave. Because truly, no one is forcing her to live there. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I'm moving out and that I won't be babysitting this summer or any time after that? Because right now, he and his wife are very upset. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been forced to babysit for my dad and his wife for 5 years for the last 4 summers. The kids are my dad's stepkids who are currently 7, 6, and 5 years old. And no, the kids are 100% not my dad's kids. And trust me, I'm positive they're not his kids either. It doesn't really matter anyways, but I wanted to put that out here because I know the ages would make it appear like at least one could be, but trust me, it's not. My dad was never a very good dad to me. When I was a kid, he was really absent from our house, and he left raising me to my mom and would show up when others were around to make it look good. But he never got involved or cared about me or my life. And actually, the one time I was always sure to see him was on his birthday when he got mom to cook his favorite meal and open up gifts. He never failed to show up when it was about him. My mom got sick when I was 8 years old, and my dad bailed and he filed for divorce. He left me to deal with my dying mom, and unfortunately for her, the divorce didn't go through before she passed, so he was still her husband. He wasn't emotionally present for me then or physically. He would just dump me on a babysitter until I was 11 years old, and then I was seen as old enough to be left alone. When I was 12 years old, he moved in his wife who was still pregnant at the time, and they weren't even married then. They got married when her youngest was about 5 months old, and they told me I was going to level up and be a good big sister to her kids so that they could live their own lives and the kids would have someone to look up to. Then came the forced babysitting during the summer, all summer long. I always tried to find ways out of it, but felt like I had no options, at least no realistic ones. Now, my dad's wife is kind of better than my dad. She isn't directly involved or caring to her kids, but she will often bark at me for not being more sweet to her kids and saying how sad her kids look when I don't interact with them. It's more than what my dad would do, but she's not exactly getting involved with her own kids either. I've been planning for over a year to get out. I turn 18 in May and I graduate a couple of weeks later. Most likely I will go stay with friends on my 18th birthday and I will totally be gone and never return. I won't babysit, and I know they expected that to happen, and I don't know that they would actually pay for someone else or if they'd maybe leave the kids without someone watching them. So I decided to tell my dad that I won't be babysitting this summer or at all. In my head, at least if he cares just a little bit, he might just get someone else in. Well, my dad told me that I've been the most consistent person in the kids' lives and that I'm a jerk for dismissing them like that. He told me that I should be staying and doing what he and his wife want because they put a roof over my head for so long now. He told me I'm going to cost him money by doing this. His wife then started yelling at me for leaving her kids behind and how sad they will be. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your dad and his wife are literally just using you for their own benefit. They only see you as a free babysitter over the summer because not only would they never pay you, but you'll never get anything out of watching those kids in the slightest. Like, do they not see how neglectful they are as parents? I mean, this guy's trying to claim that you're the most consistent person in these kids' lives, but like, shouldn't that be him and his wife? Why should you, as the stepsister, step in and be like the parent in this situation? That doesn't make any sense, and it just sounds like they're being very lazy. And you can almost see the reasons laid out in that last paragraph. He wants you to stick around because you're free labor, and then when you say no, they just guilt trip you just like the wife is doing. And literally, the way that he treated you growing up is just so neglectful. He didn't care about you or your mom in the slightest. So I don't blame you for wanting to move out. These people sound awful and you definitely don't deserve this. So in my opinion, you are absolutely not the jerk. 2 obnoxious kids come into my store demanding every single item they see within reach, and I've honestly never seen kids be more spoiled in my life. Here's what happened. So I worked at Claire's for 8 months. It was a pretty miserable job for many reasons, one of them being that I had to deal with children who made my life a living nightmare, all because mommy and daddy wouldn't buy them the eyeshadow palette shaped like a star. What often made it worse was kids and parents would often get into full-blown screaming matches, and there really is nothing less fun or more awkward than witnessing that. And the situation I'm going to tell you about is the worst case that I've ever been involved in, and honestly, thinking about this one makes me cringe. One day I'm at work and this family comes in. There's a mom, a grandma, a girl who couldn't be more than 6 years old, and a boy who couldn't couldn't be more than 5. The mom came in to ask about a problem they had after getting the girl's ears pierced. They had been a little swollen after they had taken the piercings out, and told them that it'd be a good idea to maybe clean them a little more and have her wear the precious metal earrings, which are earrings made of less crappy metal. They go to look at the earrings, and I let them know about our buy 3 get 3 deal on jewelry and hair accessories. Now, our precious metal earrings are expensive, $12 for a pair and $36 for a pack of 3. I usually feel bad telling people that they need to get the expensive ones, so I also usually pointed out the clearance ones. I walked over to the clearance ones and grabbed the 3 precious metal earrings that I saw there. I brought them over to the girl and I showed them to her, and she literally recoiled because she thought they were ugly. I have never seen a kid that age look that judgmental in my life. The family lingers into the regular earrings, and the girl starts begging for a pair of flamingo earrings. She said she needed them because she was dressing like a flamingo for Halloween. Now, get ready for these kids to say the word need a lot, because trust me, that's exactly what they do. Now, the mom wants to get enough things to get the discount, and she actually ended up getting enough items to get it more than once. The girl then gravitated to a tiara and said that she needed it because, and I quote here, "I need it because I can't be a princess without a tiara." This family ended up being in there for maybe about 20 minutes, and it honestly felt a lot longer. The entire time, both kids were hopping around the store, pointing at practically everything and saying, "I need this." Some of it was kind of weird too. We had these Harry Potter minifigure blind bags that quite a few kids wanted, even kids who were a few years too young to read Harry Potter, just because one of the options was a cute orange tabby cat that they wanted. That was clearly one of the things that these kids needed. They spent the better part of the most uncomfortable 20 minutes of my life yelling at their mom and grandma and wailing every single time they said no to anything. And the mom was getting more pissed off by the minute, but she was still really determined to stay in the store long enough to get things to get that discount. Eventually, the mom is yelling at the kids are still yelling, and the grandma is the only one not yelling, but she still looks stressed out of her mind. And I seriously can't emphasize this enough. It is really awkward to watch parents angrily scolding or arguing with their kids, especially when you're at work and you have to keep on the happy, polite retail worker face and basically act like you're not seeing anything. The mom even started telling the grandma to pick out something for herself because she did not want to buy those kids a single thing. Now, I have never been so happy to see a customer checkout in my life. As the mom is checking out, she sees that the total is really high and asks to remove a few things, and I'm so glad the kids didn't witness that. Claire's brings out the worst in children, and the buy 3 get 3 brings out the worst in the parents. Yeah, I can see that being very frustrating to deal with. There's no way on earth I could work that kind of job because I would not have that kind of patience to act like nothing's happening. I would absolutely want to be that guy to be like, wait a second, what's happening here? Why are we all screaming and yelling over earrings? Or even making some kind of remark about the kids asking for everything. Like, I don't know about you, but I would not be able to keep my mouth shut in that situation. So truly good for the original poster for keeping their cool, because that sounded incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for telling my stepdad that he's inserting himself too much into my engagement? Because right now he feels very upset that I told him off, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I got engaged 4 months ago to my fiance Chris. Chris is not his real name. Chris was confronted by my stepdad after we announced our engagement. My stepdad was upset that Chris didn't ask for my hand in marriage or my stepdad's blessing. He told Chris I'm his only little girl and it would be the most respectful thing to both of us to ask his permission and his blessing. Well, Chris told him that it's an outdated concept, and if we were to do the whole blessing thing, we would visit my dad's grave to ask. My stepdad told him that he's the dad he would ask. He's the father of the bride and he's the future father-in-law. Well, Chris didn't tell me about this right away because he said he had hoped it would blow over and he didn't want me to feel bad about it or for me to deal with stress regarding my stepdad. Last month, my stepdad asked me why I hadn't approached him for money for the wedding and why he wasn't asked directly to give me away and perform the father-daughter dance. He told me he was starting to feel very overlooked as the father of the bride, and he was not okay with that. He told me this is very big for him, as I'm the only girl that he has that's getting married and all that other stuff. Now, for a bit of background, my dad passed away when I was 6 years old, and my mom married my stepdad when I was about 10 years old. I knew him for just shy of a year when he and my mom got married. I was my mom and dad's only child, and my stepdad brought 3 sons into the marriage, and he and my mom have 3 more sons together. I respect that my stepdad wanted to be my dad and committed to being a dad to me, but he is very old-fashioned and he is not my dad. I don't really love him. I find him overbearing and misogynistic at the best of times, and he did not not like that I wanted to go to college for game design and development. He thought that was very masculine, and also never liked me playing video games in the first place. He was very into the idea of a daughter though, and often tried to take me to father-daughter balls that he would look up. I actually gave him the money back that he saved me for college and spent my dad's money because I wasn't going to let him dictate my future, and my dad did support me. He wrote a letter saying he hoped I followed my dreams of making games, and I only read that when I gained access to the money that he left me. I told my stepdad that he wasn't walking me down the aisle or performing any kind of father-daughter dance with me. I told him I wasn't looking for his money, and he told me that's what the father of the bride does and that he wants to do it. He told me it's tradition, but I said it was not traditional and that I was not having a traditional wedding. A few days after, we rehashed the same stuff. I found out about his confronting Chris then, and I went to my stepdad and told him he had no right. But he argued as my dad, he has every right. I told him though that he's not my dad and he's inserting himself way too much and cannot make demands for my wedding or engagement. He told me to say that to him after almost 20 years is disgusting, and he has been my dad far longer than my donor ever was. And when I say donor, he's referring to my father who's passed away. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your dad is being very obnoxious and very rude. He's inserting himself into the middle of you getting married, and he's trying to make these weird demands that you just don't want to deal with. Like, I understand him wanting to be involved and be this father figure in your life, but it seems like he's almost like trying to force it. Like he's almost trying to make you be the daughter to his father. But like, that's not how this works. He can't just make you his daughter, and he also can't force you to call him your dad. And speaking of which, for him to call your dad who passed away as your donor, that is really disgusting and really cruel. It's not fair for him to act like that, and you really do not deserve that. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My coworkers intentionally got me in trouble with management, and now my manager is threatening to take me off the schedule, even though I was just trying to be a team player. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I started at this restaurant a few months ago, and it initially took some getting used to, as I haven't served in many years. My coworkers were really helpful in the beginning, but with time started to get annoyed with me because I would ask questions. I was supposed to get 3 manager training shifts when I started, which never happened, so my training ended up falling on whoever I was working with that night. I have definitely gotten a handle on the job since then, but some of that tension towards me has still lingered. I try really hard to be friends with my coworkers, and it's important to me to feel like we are a team, despite the competitiveness of serving. But I feel like people are kind of two-faced, and it's really hard to get a read on people. Sometimes I want to keep my head down and do my own thing, but my manager pointed this out to me and asked me to interact with everyone more. Anyways, with that said, lately it's been so slow a lot of the times, meaning that one server will go home early so that the other can make whatever money they can with the few tables that come in. In the winter, that was acceptable, but recently my manager has been cracking down on this. The thing is, my coworkers encourage me to leave early almost every single shift, especially when it's slow, so I end up feeling awkward if I don't. My manager found out that I left early the other day and basically sent me a text ready to take me off the schedule and saying I don't act like I want to be there. Now, I really do want to keep this job, and I feel bad for letting him down. We are going to sit down next week and talk it over, but I need to know if anyone has any advice or a similar experience working in restaurants. It feels very dog eat dog, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, why on earth would you leave early all because your coworkers are telling you to do that? Like, it really seems like your coworkers are just trying to get you in trouble with management, and you should have not listened to anything they said to you. Like, you do realize they did that on purpose, right? They clearly don't like you because you were new and asking them questions, and now it's pretty clear to me at least that they're trying to get rid of you in some kind of way. And here's the other thing that I really think you need to figure out. I think you need to realize that just because someone's a coworker doesn't mean that they're your friend, especially based on what you've described, because these people do not sound like good people at all. So in my opinion, I think it's time to listen to your management and follow exactly what they want you to do, because leaving early just because your coworkers say that you can do it, in my opinion, is a surefire way just to get fired. An entitled jerk steals things right off of my desk at my office, even though he was contracted to clean the office in the first place. But fortunately for me, I had cameras set up to catch him in the act, proving to everybody that this guy's a thief in the office, resulting in him eventually being fired. Here's what happened. So roughly 6 or 7 years ago, I worked as a lead IT engineer at a very large multinational company. It was a pretty good job that I thoroughly enjoyed, if I'm being completely honest. Although us IT IT guys had a secure room for storage and preparation of all the spare laptops and monitors, we worked out in an open plan area outside the secure room. As we worked in IT, we often had spare cables and mice, tool sets, and other such bits laying around on our desk area. Most of these were company owned, but a few items here and there were personal possessions, as is often the case in the office. One of the personal items I owned was a nice miniature screwdriver set. The tools supplied by the company were not the greatest. I mean, they gave us a basic and ordinary screwdriver set, so I brought in my own nice mini set that I'd been given as a present the year before. It makes my work easier, as it's far more precise and is better at removing the tiny screws you've got inside laptops. Most of the time, it's locked away in my desk drawer. Anyways, every now and then, a cable or a spare mouse would disappear. And honestly, this is no biggie. They're a company-owned kit, and it's probably someone just coming in early, finding they've forgotten their phone charging cable, popping down to the IT area to ask for a new one only to find nobody is there, and then just grabbing a spare that's laying around. Usually, we just order a few more spares here and there to cover it off, and I never worry too much about it. But then, one day my USB-powered cup warmer disappeared. Now, this annoyed me as I owned it. I couldn't just order a replacement from the company suppliers, and it certainly had not been taken just to replace a faulty or lost peripheral. I asked around my colleagues, and a couple of them had also had personal items disappear here and there. Now, as someone who hates the injustice of theft, I decided to do something about it. I did a bit of research and found a piece of free software that can detect movement in the footage from a webcam and then record a short video of it. It can also record from multiple cameras simultaneously. I didn't want the usual green LED on an active webcam to give anything away, so I took a couple of old or used webcams that had been returned to the IT store. I disassembled them with my trusty screwdriver set and then stuck blue tack over the little active LED light before reassembling them. I set them up on top of my two monitors such that one was pointing downwards towards my desk and the second was pointing towards the entrance area of our cubicles. Now, I should explain that the desks were the usual square office desks with a curved chunk missing from one corner where you sat at. They were arranged with the walls and windows on one side, with 4 desks in an open square with cupboards in between them, such that your back faced the other 3 desks in the cube. Then finally, a single gap entrance between the desks facing into the corridor. My desk was towards the window, meaning that anyone wanting to reach my desk had to walk through the one gap just to get there. I configured the software not to record during the day when I was working, but only after hours it would record in 20-second blocks every time it detected movement. Now, for a couple of months, all goes relatively smoothly. I see one worker grab a spare mouse one morning in the footage, and honestly, that's about it. It really was no big deal. Then, one day, I got a job to replace a broken keyboard on a laptop. I go to dig out my little screwdriver set, but it's nowhere to be found. Eventually, I carry out the repair with my company-owned toolkit, but then I start looking through the recorded footage from my webcam setup. And then just like that, a few days ago, my little toolkit is sitting there on my desk. I must have forgotten to put it away in my office drawer, so I fast-forwarded to a video from the following morning, and it had disappeared. There's a few other files there from in between, and usually, the cameras just get triggered by a security guard passing by on his rounds of the building, or sometimes it's the cleaners emptying bins or something like that. But then I see it. The company hired a window cleaning firm to clean the insides of the windows, roughly once every other month. I see the guy cleaning windows and then moving on. 10 minutes later, he returns carrying a cloth, and I watch the footage as he gently drapes the cloth over my toolkit, then picks it back up, toolkit and all, before walking away from the scene of the crime. And that's when I knew I had him. I promptly sent the footage to the chief of the security team, who I know quite well. 5 minutes later, he's at my desk. He's not entirely thrilled about my unauthorized surveillance, which he did subsequently ask me to remove, but he is far more interested about what my little web cameras had captured. I'm asked not to share the footage with anyone else, and he reassures me that the matter is being investigated and that senior management are involved. Eventually, things go quiet for a little bit, but a few weeks later, he calls by my desk and presents me a brand new miniature screwdriver set. I pressed him for details, and he basically told me the whole story. The window cleaning firm that the company used for this office was a local family-owned firm. My company called the window cleaning firm and suspended the contract pending an investigation due to theft by one of their workers. The owner of the window cleaning firm promptly came around to investigate, and upon seeing my footage, he recognized the guy as a newer employee they had hired a few months prior. The suspension of the contract was a big deal for this little family-owned firm, as this was a large building with probably about 1,000 staff inside of it, and hence quite an important contract contract for them financially. The owner of the window cleaning firm agreed to promptly fire the thief and buy a replacement toolkit for me, and in return, my company agreed to lift the suspension and allow the window cleaning firm to resume their work. Now, to this day, I wonder if it was really worth it for the thief. I mean, they lost their job over a $20 screwdriver set. Of course, for my company, it was a much bigger deal. People like that could potentially steal important documentation or other private company information. Either way, allowing a thief on site was a huge no-no for them. So in short, don't steal, especially from IT guys who have the full view of a webcam at their disposal. Wow, that is seriously messed up that the window cleaning guy decided to steal from you. Like, first of all, this guy picked it up like he was trying to avoid fingerprints. Like, he wrapped it up in the cloth and then picked it up instead of picking it up with his hands. Like, does this guy have some kind of shady past or what? Like, what's going on? And personally, I seriously cannot stand people who steal. They are some of the most despicable people on planet Earth to me, and I just can't agree with taking someone else's property for your own gain. So good for you for trapping this guy and figuring out who was stealing all your stuff off your desk, because clearly this guy's been doing this for a while, and I'm willing to bet that all the stuff that's been missing from your office probably stemmed back to that guy stealing it in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for going off of my sister-in-law for not paying me back, as well as bragging about having my own place? Because right now she is calling me a jerk, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have a sister-in-law who's 31 and a brother who's 28. I'm an 18-year-old female, and in 2022, they lost their home due to a wildfire. I was already helping them financially starting at the age of 16. When they lost their home, I let them borrow $400 alone at this point, and also started a GoFundMe and raised $5,000 for them to be able to get a place. Well, they decided to blow that money on vacations and fast food while living in a hotel with 3 children. I was at this point saving up for a car, and my brother tried to gaslight me in saying that if I cared for my niece and nephews, I would send them all of my car funds, which totaled to about $3,000. That way they could get a place for their kids. But I told them no. They got a camper and have been living there ever since. They both refused to work and bum off of their family, and after I turned 18, I refused to send them any more money, and that's when they really started to treat me even more like garbage. I decided to calculate how much they owed me, and it was about $600, but because earlier in 2023, I needed a new phone, they sent me a 2020 iPhone SE. I decided to subtract the price it was when it first came out, so they only owed me about $400. I told them they needed to pay me back, but they just argued with me, saying they only owed me about $120 and refused to pay me any money back. Ever since I've gone no contact with them, I have gotten my own apartment. My sister-in-law has sent a single dollar a day and would call me a whale each time. It got to the point where I decided to brag about how I'm 18 years old with my own place, and yet they're 28 and 31 without a place or a job. I work full-time as a daycare teacher, and my sister-in-law argued it's hard work with 3 kids, but I just know that there's people out there that would say otherwise. My sister-in-law called me a jerk for demanding her to pay me back, especially when she's homeless and jobless with 3 kids. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk for asking for that money back, especially since it really seems like they were using you in the first place. I do kind of think it was weird and petty to be like, yeah, I'm 18 and I've got my own place. What are you doing with your life? But I think considering the way they've been treating you, it seems like this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to conflict between you and these people. But for them to be like, yeah, give us all your money so we can take care of our kids. Like, that's weird, and that is absolutely uncalled for. Like, you would have been a fool to give up that $3,000, and thankfully you saw them for exactly what they are. Like, you've already done so much for them, and yes, it is a tragedy that they lost their house in a fire, but the way they're living their life now is honestly unacceptable. So I don't really blame you for trying to put them in their place. I feel very wronged and bitter about my parents and the way they were celebrating my failure when I first went to college. But ever since I got my grades up, they've been cold and indifferent, not showing any enthusiasm about my academic success. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. When I decided to leave for college, my parents were unhappy with my decision. However, when I joined another college and found happiness in my new academic path, they began pressuring me to change my major. They belittled my chosen field and claimed it had no future prospects. What upset me the most was not their lack of faith in my choices, but rather their reaction when I struggled academically. During times when my grades grades were not satisfactory, my parents would express their disappointment by emphasizing the financial burden I was placing on them. They made me feel like a failure and constantly reminded me of how much money they were losing because of my college education. This added to my already mounting pressure and sense of inadequacy. Oddly enough, when I made the decision to change my major and subsequently achieved outstanding grades, my parents appeared cold and indifferent. They did not show any enthusiasm or support for my academic success. However, when I received poor grades, they would shame me and compare me to other people, making me feel even worse about myself. The situation reached its lowest point when I left college with a GPA of 1.04. Throughout this entire journey, my parents never seemed genuinely happy or proud of my accomplishments. Their inconsistent reactions and lack of encouragement have deeply affected me emotionally, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your parents sound like really toxic people. It seems like they would rather see you fail than ever try to celebrate your success, and that's exactly what should have happened here. They should have celebrated you doing well instead of trying to celebrate your downfall. Like seriously, what's wrong with these people? If I had a kid in college and they were happy in the college major they were pursuing and they were finally getting good grades, I would celebrate that. I wouldn't be cold and indifferent. And by the way, the only reason they're acting that way is because you literally proved them wrong. So honestly, I'm so sorry they treated you that way, and hopefully you can move forward and be happy despite their terrible treatment. My mother-in-law is trying to convince my wife that our 10-year marriage has been a failure, and at this point, I'm considering cutting her out of our lives entirely, but I'm really not sure if that's the right call. Here's what happened. I've been with my wife for 14 years, and since the very beginning, her mother has repeatedly compared me to her oldest son, and not surprisingly, accused me of never being able to live up to the shining example of a man that he is. It started our marriage off on a bad foot. My wife was privy to her tendency to do this, and for a while went low contact with her mom until we had settled down a bit into our new life together. Along the way, my mother-in-law has had moments where she's gotten frustrated with where we are in life. Her only checklist for success for us is having children and buying a home. Well, it turns out infertility and working in New York City make both of those things very difficult. We've gone through several options, but we haven't been successful. It's taken an enormous emotional toll on us, especially coming from an ethno-religious community where infertility is a scarlet letter. We're also not interested in owning a home at this stage, but I guess context just evades her. Recently, my wife went to see her mom, and they eventually got into an argument where my mother-in-law was trying to convince my wife that our 10 years of marriage have been an utter failure with nothing to show for it, namely no kids and no house, comparing us again to her eldest son who has 3 kids and a home. Also, as a side note, he cheated on and divorced his wife, although she never mentions that detail when comparing me. Now, when this happened, my wife was shaken, and for the past 2 weeks has been noticeably depressed. She's normally a bubbly and joyous person, so honestly, I'm at my wit's end. From the beginning, she has constantly cast our marriage in the shadow of other people and has provided no understanding of our situation. I'm close to demanding that we cut ties with her entirely, but I'm honestly not sure if that's the right call. Wow, your mother-in-law sounds like an awful human being. The fact that she's trying to compare you to her oldest son, who cheated and divorced his wife, by the way, in my opinion is so ironic. It's like she's keeping out so many details that, I don't know, might be really important to the story, but also context really does matter. You've hit the nail on the head. Like, she doesn't care at all about your situation or the fact that you two are trying your best. Like, you're both having trouble having kids, and you both live in New York City, so I'm sure your housing situation is already really tiny as it is. And now, as a result of a visit that you thought would go well, your wife, who is usually bubbly and joyous, is completely depressed. Like, that is not fair for her or for anybody involved. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not feel any remorse about cutting this mother-in-law off entirely. She literally is trying to come after your marriage at this point. Like, I don't know about you, but she's either bored with life or she really is trying to ruin your life. And in my opinion, I don't think you or your wife deserves that in the slightest. An entitled Karen and her husband want me to control the behavior of customers, all because they didn't get what they want. And I'm honestly blown away by their entitlement. Here's what happened. So I work at a large storage facility, and we provide carts for customers to move their goods as a courtesy and keep them evenly distributed between the 2 entrances to the building. And they're available on a first-come, first-served basis. As I was doing my daily facility inspection, I got a call from my coworker in the office asking me to come speak to a customer because they had an angry confrontation with another customer. My immediate reaction was, so what? Mediating disputes between customers is not in my job description. Regardless, I took the elevator down to the back entrance where the argument occurred, and I talked to the customer back there. She explained they were using all of the carts to transfer goods between their new unit and their old unit, and when another customer had asked for one they currently had goods on, she let them know that there were more carts in the front of the facility. Well, this triggered the person asking enough to start screaming the phrase, "Why should I have to?" which is featured prominently in the story. The screaming lady's husband got aggressive, so the cart-using customer's husband asserted himself without violence, and the other guy decided to go to the office and make it our problem. I get to the office and I ask the Karens what happened, and immediately I recognize the husband as someone that has thrown a tantrum over there not being a cart available for him immediately when he arrived just a few months ago. They share their side of the story, which also features the words, "Well, why should I have to?" as well as the same events, but casting my other customer and her husband as dangerous, crazy people. The male Karen repeatedly states that he will do whatever he has to protect his wife, but I let him know if anyone does violence on the property, they will be evicted and reported to the police. He keeps saying that it's my responsibility as the facility manager to control my customers, and that if something happened to them, I would be the one at fault. But I disagreed with him strenuously, stating that I can't control anyone and I am not responsible for the behavior of the customers. They ended up leaving in a huff, saying that I'm not a real manager, but as they were leaving, I let them know that there are more carts in the front if they still needed one. Yeah, people like this are so confusing. They want you to not only take their side, but also believe the garbage they're spewing out. Like seriously, just get a cart from the front. Don't try to take someone else's just because you're too lazy to get one. And for them to frame these people as crazy psychopaths, or even imply that they're gonna get violent, all under the guise of, oh man, I gotta protect my wife. That, in my opinion, should have been the last straw to get these people evicted, because they've already been a problem in the past. And honestly, if I ran that facility, I would definitely be kicking them out. Am I the jerk for wanting to end a family tradition that excludes one child? Because right now, I'm really worried about my daughter, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So every April, my wife's family holds a family reunion. They don't celebrate holidays together often, so they go all out for these by renting out a hall and getting catering, and literally putting on the works. The only weird event at these reunions is a clothing swap between women of the family. For whatever reason, when my wife and her sisters all had daughters close in age, they decided a long time ago that this was the best way to do family hand-me-downs. All of the women in my wife's family ended up being very short, so they all wear similar sizes, so it's always kind of worked out, with a 70-30 gender split, and the only men in the family being myself, my brother-in-law, and my sons from a previous relationship. This swap meet is the main event. They make it a whole show about it. It's incredibly boring from the outside, so my boys and I always head out early if we go out at all. Now, this would be a non-issue if it weren't for my daughter. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Katie. Katie is not her real name. Katie is my wife and I's baby, and she ended up taking after my side of the family. We are a taller family, or at least just not super short. So by the time she was 11 years old, she started coming back with nothing from those parties. The first time, I assumed that she was just being picky until I realized that she was starting to be bigger than her older sisters and cousins, and had outgrown any size that they would wear. My wife thought she needed to realize that not everything was for everyone, and to just have fun being there. Last year, she started having body image issues, thinking that she was fat and needed to go on a diet, and now I'm thinking having this event is feeding into it. This year is going to be a massive deal as my mother-in-law is going into a nursing home, and she is downsizing. She was so into fashion that she has an entire storage unit full, so this is going to be a ton of stuff. I'm starting to think the reunion shouldn't have a clothing swap at all, and all of that should be done privately at another time. I mean, family shouldn't be about a fashion show. My wife thinks that's ridiculous, and our daughter is just having typical teenage problems that will go away on their own. But if she's so bothered, she can just not go or stay with the boys. But I don't think that's right. This is mainly a girls' reunion, and it's not like there's anything else for an alternative for her to share in, because they don't really get rid of accessories or anything else. It's all just clothing. This event is starting to get mean and exclusionary, and it needs to end. I'm trying my best to make them see sense, but I'm honestly getting nothing but arguments. So honestly, am I really in the wrong here? Because I seriously am not sure what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Why would your daughter go to this event, especially if she's so much taller than everybody else? It doesn't make any sense in the slightest, and making her go really seems counterintuitive. It just doesn't compute as to why she would show up in the first place. She's much taller than the other side of her family, so maybe instead of forcing her to go to this event and keep up this stupid tradition that is clearly going to exclude her, just take her out shopping shopping that day or something like that. That way she can have some kind of clothing coming out of this event, because obviously nothing's going to fit her because she's taller than everybody else. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and the fact that nobody else is understanding that, in my opinion, is really unfortunate. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.